faces. Awesome. Okay, and then is Shani back on?
Hi, Jessica. Good morning. Yep, I'm here.
Okay, awesome. All right, so this is we had a question about the recordings. So they will be posted onto the Google Classroom. We need to put last week's up, but it will be up shortly. But you will be able to find them and they'll be there. Like we're not going to take them down or it'll be a resource for you. Yep. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started just because I want to be mindful of time. Just to give a little background. My name is Jessica Matza. I'm the research assistant for the COGS IMP. I am going to be, is it co-host or co-moderator? I'm gonna be tag teaming with a super awesome person, Shani. And I don't know if you want to say a couple things before we get started about yourself and
Yeah, Jessica, thank you. Yes, I'm really excited to be called in to kind of co-host. It's really, really great program. I think there's a lot of good content and excited to kind of share more with you today. But as a quick way of introduction, I am a visiting tribal scholar in the College of Natural Resources here at University of Idaho. And I'm also a doctoral student in natural resources and society, focusing on water and critical water geographies within an Indigenous context.
awesome. Thank you. I hope I can share screens. But I'm gonna go ahead and kind of just get us started and moving. I would have my husband kind of give our opening words, but he is on travel and hopefully he'll be able to come in soon. So if we could pause the recording for just a minute, and I'll just go ahead and say some words if that's all right, just to kind of get us going and starting in a good way. Do we have a pause? Maybe.
B, are you able to pause the recording?
I just paused it.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so Zan Bechku, Dama Apa Sogobia, Creator, Father Sky, Mother Earth. Thank you for allowing us all to come together today. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen as we do our introduction. Oh shoot, we need to have the sharing enabled. B.
I think that's right.
Okay, I got it now.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so can everybody see this?
Oh, Jessica, I'm seeing B's screen.
Oh,
There we go.
okay.
Perfect.
Oops, and I got the day wrong. Darn it. Okay, so today is not the 7th. It is the 14th, and we're in our second workshop series within the Indigenous Mentoring Program. This series, we're going to be talking about cultural humility and how that is instrumental in mentoring and Indigenous scholars, and also as we navigate our own research as Indigenous scholars as well. Oops. Okay. So before we get started, there's just a few reminders. So as we have lots of people on this workshop series, if you can remember to please mute your mic, that we have respect for each other, and that we honor our space of learning. that we honor moments of pause. As I was saying, there might be some information that might be new or things that we might have to take some time to digest and just sit with, and that is totally fine, and that we respect each other in that way. And then lastly, Shani made a great point last workshop series, is that this is a 4-hour kind of endeavor that we're all going to be spending time together. And so make sure you take your needs or take care of your needs as you see fit. If you need to step away for a moment and come back. We're going to also be incorporating some breakout or breaks along the way, but make sure you take care of yourself. You want to add anything? Are we good?
No, I think that's great, Jessica. Yeah, 4 hours it seems long and not enough time at the same time, but we recognize we are asking for a lot of your time and attention today.
Yeah. Okay. And so just to give a brief overview with the Indigenous Mentoring Program, the purpose of this workshop is to mentor faculty, staff, and administrators who work with or are interested in working with American Indian and Alaska Native students in graduate degree programs. And then we were also saying to include undergraduate as well. This program is curated by UI College of Graduate Studies, Office of Tribal Relations, Pacific Northwest Circles of Success, Mentoring Opportunities in STEM, and Idaho EPSCoR, with an audience made up of University of Idaho faculty and staff, Indigenous scholars, mentors, collaborators, and partners. And this also includes other universities too, so it's good to see some really awesome people that have been able to join us today. All right, and then wanting to give a land acknowledgement. If I could ask for grace, as some of these names I am going to do my best to pronounce, but at the same time, I am just a human being. And if I mispronounce anything, my apologies. So the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that statewide, the University of Idaho resides on the homelands of the Nimiipuu, the Palouse, the Shitsumsh, Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai, the Noah, Shoshone Bannock, and the Shoshone Paiute tribes. We extend gratitude to the Indigenous people that call these places home. Since time immemorial, UI recognizes that it is our academic responsibility to build relationships with the Indigenous people to ensure integrity of tribal voice. And then the workshop series, our sponsors are the University of Idaho College of Graduate Studies, University of Idaho Office of Tribal Relations, and Idaho EPSCoR. Okay, and so I don't know if you guys can see me moving the little video things, but I am sorry. So this workshop series is going to be, oh my gosh, so it's supposed to be cultural humility. There's a couple typos, I apologize. But the session 1, we're going to be looking at the article that we had put into the Google Classroom, doing a brief overview and some discussion and breakout. And then session 2, we're going to be looking at cultural humility, and Shani is going to be giving a presentation, and I'm very excited. I got a little sneak peek, and it looks really good. And then session 3, we're going to be having Dr. Eva Strand and Kim Stewart, and they're going to be talking about their relationship, advising Native scholars and also being a Native scholar within the university. And then the last session is going to be a panel where we're going to have U of I Indigenous scholars and alumni joining in to answer some questions and having discussions about what do we need as Indigenous scholars being in a university or institution. Do you want to add anything, Shani?
Yeah, Jessica, thank you. And I meant to say thank you too for opening us today. You just have a wonderful way of bringing us all into this this space and making us feel like we're in this together, and I feel comfortable even, just being able to be vulnerable and sharing. So thank you very much for that. I do want to just make a quick note on our theme, um, cultural humility, and just how we're trying to thread that through different ways that it shows up. So when we have, for instance, Dr. Ava Strand and Kim presenting, that's a direct and kind of obvious how we're bringing that forward and talking about that and celebrating it. And then we'll also be talking within the panel about the broader intentions of scholars and how and why we come to university. And my sessions mostly getting us to do a little bit of that self-work. We have a breakout session I think will be kind of fun to do. And then just kind of introducing us in a context of how we're defining cultural humility and other things. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for just a moment as we have a few minutes to just introduce yourself. So in the chat, if you can say where you're coming from, maybe if you're coming from a different university or place in general. We had some really exciting people from last week that were, I think, all the way from like Alaska and different places. So in the chat, go ahead and say who you are and where you're from, and then we'll get going on the next one. I am actually going to fix my slide while that's going on. And it's just one of those things, you look at it and you look at it, and we got Moscow, Pullman, Moscow. Very cool. Twin Falls, Minnesota. Very cool. Yay. Got Shoban, Post Falls. Very cool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring us back here. And we'll check back in with the chat as well. Can you see this, Shani?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And I fixed it. I feel better now. It was really bugging me. So this workshop series is centering cultural humility. I'm very excited about it. Okay. So this workshop series in the class resources, there was an article called Being a Scientist Means Taking Sides. And this was a really great article. It's a short read. I feel like it's like a kind of a powerhouse of an article. For those of you who are, wanting to include just different perspectives in your writing or your research or science, this is a great piece. I'm going to use it this week, after we're done, but it's so good. And so if you have the time to read it, it's very short. It's like 4 pages, I think. I would highly suggest it. But so the article is Being a Scientist Means Taking Sides. And I had pulled a quote from the article. It says, once you are a scientist, which means as soon as you systematically ask questions about the universe, you take a political side. And I put this picture of our oldest son, Luzaha. We had gone to a protest, and we were talking about environmental justice, and our kids had made their own sign. And I wanted to kind of bring this point as we move through this article overview, is that if we think about when we are systematically asking questions about the world, we're not doing it as adults. Like, we don't just arrive all of a sudden to have the ability to ask questions. We're doing that throughout our whole lives, and we're doing that with our families, and we're doing that very heavily influenced with, our communities and our cultures and our values. And I wanted to kind of situate our lens of analyzing this article, looking through, our own perspectives of we are biased. We as Indigenous people, we are going into school for the most part. A lot of times we already have our why, like why we want to go and what we're trying to seek out as far as knowledge. So just put that there. So within the article, they talked about asking questions and that there's infinite questions. Asking certain questions means not asking, you have to pick and choose what you're going to be inquiring on. And so asking certain questions means not asking other questions. And this decision has implications for society, for the environment, and for the future. And in this article, it was great because it was saying that, there's so many things to have inquiries about, and we don't have the capacity to ask every single question out there. And so, through our own lenses and our biases, we have to kind of choose where we're going to be directing our research.
Yeah, and Jessica, I just want to add too with I feel like the way we've set this up and designed it is we're trying to walk through what informs what we ask, so the why, and we are talking from, and we'll cover even in the next session, different biases and kind of how that might impact how we practice cultural humility. But also on the other side, I was really glad you said that, Jessica, about putting it in the context of an Indigenous lens, because there's so much more to unpack around that with I think the next week's session, where they'll be talking in the next 2 weeks really about really giving this amazing picture and landscape of where we come from as Indigenous students and how we form our why and how we practice that in academia.
Thank you, Shani. And then, so if we move throughout this article, it's really cool because it gives two examples. And one of the examples, it was talking about the American Fisheries Society. And I'll just read it. So the American Fisheries Society were all aware that petitioning for the listing of numerous salmon runs as endangered meant they were taking a position in controversies. And so they're having to decide if they're going to choose the side of opposing, certain entities like dams and just like, all these different people that have interest in keeping salmon not listed in certain ways. And on the other end, though, this would also be taking a side if they did not petition. They would be taking the side of the status quo and business as usual. And so when you're going into science, you have to think about, by taking action, you are choosing a side, but also by not taking action, you are still choosing a side as far as, the political world that we live in. And do you want to speak a little to it? I'm going to find a quote really quick. Sorry.
Yeah, I think another way of kind of saying it too is like complicity in any issue or matter is also a choice. We're either consciously or even unconsciously deciding to what we pay attention to, but even thinking critically about it. So when I say that, it is really very interesting, like how we make our choices and how much that gets defined by how we come up in the lived realities of our worlds. There's multiple realities across the world, and how that informs how we live now and also how we ask those questions.
And I think this was a really interesting example too, because a lot of people, they know who American Fisheries Society is. And, it's a very well-known society. But there was no mention of the Indigenous communities and how the impact of listing these salmon runs as endangered would impact them as well, and having their voice and perspective. And then kind of returning back, it's this idea of that there is controversies when challenging, the status quo. And being a scientist is you have that positionality to empower different communities, to empower groups of people that, have very deep vested interests in things such as, our relatives, the salmon. Yeah. And then the article goes on to bring in another point or another example, and talking about risk assessment versus alternatives assessment. And I pulled this quote out. It was saying, scientists think that their role is to be objective, to not take sides, to provide excellent information so that whatever decision making takes place is informed. And I thought this was really interesting because I myself have taken risk assessment classes and they were really interesting, but it does, look at this lens of, the two definitions that are included here. So risk assessment, so how much? So how much can people be exposed to a certain toxin until it's, detrimental or fatal, or how much pollution can we put in the air before, it reaches a level that is so dangerous, or how many trees can we take from the land, how many gallons of water can be polluted before, this severity or seriousness of the situation can take place. And a lot of times through risk assessment, that is how scientific research is, the lens that we see or that we are looking through. But in this article, it's suggesting that we instead look at an alternative assessment. So asking, instead of how much or how many, we're asking what alternatives are available. What are the other options? So instead of taking, all these trees from the land, what other options are there to create, whatever materials we're trying to make? Maybe it's hemp, maybe it's something else. And then this quote is, what is the least we can get away with doing to the earth? How can we best institute precautionary behaviors? And so I just thought that was a really great comparison and side by side of like what we are used to asking and how can we change that narrative to be more holistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I like what you say about holistic too. It makes me think of even coming from a risk assessment perspective right away, like what does that say about the scientists' assumptions about how we can treat and relate to the environment? And as I was reading this and rereading it, it made me think of also if folks are interested to learn more about rights of nature. I mean, I feel like that's kind of a whole swing to really acknowledge and honor our more than human relatives as distinct and of their own agency. And so if you're interested, to me, that's kind of like a swing where we can ask rather from that position, and ask questions, assuming that our more than human relatives have agency and rights to exist as themselves. And this is not I guess it's a plug, but I don't know this person. But the rights of nature was really interesting in a podcast called Damages. So if you get a chance to listen to Damages, that's kind of what I'm thinking about as well.
Maybe we could put that plug or link in either the Google Classroom or the chat later, because I would like to listen to it. All right. And then I was struggling how to say this word. Is it maelstrom?
Maelstrom?
Okay. So the political maelstrom, which is kind of where the article was starting to end. But it's saying that it is eye-opening for a scientist to participate in the public political process, of our country that surround environmental and public health issues. However, even if you choose not to participate, you are taking a side. And so I think it kind of re-emphasizes this idea that it doesn't matter, you are taking a side. If you are engaging in, this political work, working on behalf of environmental justice or public health and human well-being, or, all these things, or you're not, it is taking a side. And then, to add to that note, so acting in the public interest, and this article talked about, how helpful it is, and the impacts that it can have as a scientist to engage in public interest. And, what is it? What is acting in the public interest? And the article says that participating in those processes that promote environmental integrity, biological diversity, public health, and democracy. And I think overall, as scientists and as Indigenous researchers, I think that's kind of the overall goal. We're trying to add to a body of knowledge to contribute to society, to help I like to say, be active agents of change within our Indigenous communities. And so acting in the public interest is something that we do practice. But then when, what could this look like for people who are just starting to consider, or this is something new, or, something that they're interested in. So part of acting in the public interest is to go out and work with the public interest groups. And so Shani and I had a really good brief conversation right before this, but that public interest group, it should also include Indigenous nations or community groups, that you should be working with different, capacities, state, community, and tribal community. That acting in the public interest is also to do relevant projects. So things that are going to be kind of going back to our last week's workshop series, is that it's not prescriptive. We're not wanting to bring a project to a community and say, this is what's going on already. You guys can fit right here. But instead, going into the different public interest groups and asking them, what do they need? What's going on? How can you be of service? And those acts of service are relevant to the projects that are going on. And then acting in a public interest is to serve on local, state, national committee or task force. So you are engaging in different capacities, not just in this, singular space of research, that you are having to go and have conversations. And this article did a really great job talking about a scientist who went to a community meeting, and he wasn't expecting to talk or speak, but the information that was being given out was inaccurate. And so he had to speak up and provide his perspective as a scientist that were informing the community. I think it was having to do with pollution or something like that. But taking those moments to step up and to speak up if it's needed. And then lastly, acting in the public interest is to devote a minimum, and this is just a suggestion, devote a minimum of 10% of your time and 10% of your money to activism. I think a lot of times when people think of devoting money, they think of a donation, or they think of, giving a certain monetary thing to organization, but it can look a lot of different ways. It could be hosting a potluck or a barbecue, or it could be helping put materials together for a protest. It could be, lots of different ways that it doesn't need to just be set on 10% of dollars. It could be whatever, the community needs it to be. And then I put in a couple pictures or slides of the way this might look within a community. So my husband and I, we run a nonprofit called River Noah, and we do a lot of educational outreach looking at Indigenous science and STEM and just different ways of learning and the ways that we learn as Shoshone-Bannock people. And I wanted to put this in here because I think working with Indigenous scholars, research and science, it is very close to home to us. It's very personal. And that idea of inquiry and being researchers, it's not, again, when we're in college and conducting research, we've been conducting research our whole lives. And so just to give a little definition of Indigenous pedagogy, just because for me, research is also about learning. And my perspective is that we have to have the learning be braided in with research. And so Indigenous pedagogy is based on centuries of experience, raising children to function productively in close-knit communities. Family members, elders, and other community members pass on this knowledge to each new generation. And so that is a form of research, and that's a form of exchange of knowledge and how we engage on land and how we engage in the politicalness of being tribal citizens while also being US citizens. There's a lot of what Dr. Brayboy talks about in that liminal space where we have to go back and forth and having to carry our identities throughout research. And so you can see our daughter Malia is on the river and she's usually got a book in her hand, and trusting, I think, is another part of Indigenous research where we have to trust each other, the land, and understand that like our ancestors have been engaging in research since time immemorial, and kind of having that reciprocity of continuing forward, of returning to land and home. And then what does that look like as far as how that could look in a university setting? So bringing our young people, our youngest people and our oldest people together to engage in community research, and that there's not a separation of, right now I'm a scientist and then later I'm going to go home and I'm going to be a parent, but that I am a parent and I'm conducting research and my family is with me are some examples that we talk about. So doing a time check, I think we're doing okay. We're gonna go on to our breakouts. So before we get started, I'm just gonna go over kind of the structure of it. We're going to have people go into groups. There's going to be a facilitator and someone who is going to kind of call on people, facilitate the group, and then you're going to be the one sharing out at the end. We're also going to have a recorder, so the person is going to be taking notes of who says what, and later those notes are going to be posted in Jamboard. And then a timekeeper, so we're going to have about I think 15 minutes of discussion time, and just to keep everybody on track. And as we're in these breakout rooms, we're going to be looking at two questions, kind of taking in this very brief overview of this article. But it is, how do the inclusion of Indigenous perspectives contribute to questions asked in science? And then the second question is, when we discuss public interest, who comes to mind? So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to throw these questions in the chat. Is there anything you want to add, Shani, while I'm doing that? I feel like I'm like zooming through, but I just want to make sure we have time for discussion.
No, I think everything that we're doing to engage this reading together and think on it more, and then encourage us to kind of think on it more as well within the lens of supporting Indigenous students. And I think just branching from that, it really is about more than that, and can include community, like you're talking about, Jessica.
Okay, so there's the questions. I'm going to get the Jamboard really quick. Excuse me. And then also the Jamboard is on the Google Classroom. It is the module 2 in cultural humility. And I am just going to copy link.
I will stay in this main room for a little while. And if you have any trouble reaching anything, let us know. We can certainly try to troubleshoot and get you where we're going.
Okay. I think I'm gonna set the timer for 15 minutes. That might put us 5 minutes over for the next session. Is that all right, Shani?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
So I'm going to,
How many breakout rooms would you like me to assign?
I think they're by random last time we did that and it worked
Okay.
out pretty good.
Okay. And I'll create.
Okay. And then we will return to our room, our main room in at 9:25, 24, I think it was.
Okay, I'm gonna start the breakout rooms.
Okay, I got the timer going.
B, you want to try that again to randomly assign?
Yes, breakout rooms. And I think I have to choose a different option on here.
Let me Well, thank you guys for your patience. B, can I try on my end and see if that random assign comes up?
Yeah, okay. I'll let you
So
try on your end.
I'm gonna close all rooms. Breakout rooms. No, that won't do it. Let's see.
Well, maybe if we are having some technical difficulties, we can kind of shift or pivot to have like an open discussion. If that is, so maybe try
Yeah.
one more time, and then if not, we'll just have a discussion instead.
Okay.
Yeah, let's try one more time.
It's saying
looks
that
like-
there's some in breakout rooms, but it's gonna close in 15 seconds, so it doesn't let me like restart it.
If you just want to maybe take like the first 4 people on the participant list and put them into a room, and then the next 4, that might be
Easy.
a way to
Okay.
do it.
And then assign 2, 3, 4. I think I'm assigning now.
I can start from the bottom. That's helpful.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that would
breakout
work.
rooms.
Okay. Oh, I think it's working now.
Okay, we're headed in. Okay, I think everyone's in a meeting.
All right.
Oh, yeah, we've got a big room for it looks like. But that's okay. Let's just roll with that. And yeah, we'll still try. Maybe shall we say 9:25, Jessica?
Yeah. I am wondering if someone is in their room 3 by themselves.
Yeah, let's
I
see.
cannot join my room. Just join the room and then just kick me off automatically.
Mm.
Not, we'll try to get you assigned to another room.
Yeah, see, I can join another room for.
I
If-
was in room 1 and nobody was there.
I'm so sorry. I'm having
I
some.
got lonely, so I left.
Oh, man.
Well, I suppose
Says I can go
Diane.
in 6. Let's see, I'll unmute this or I'll do my video. I can go. I didn't do my hair this morning. Bad hair day. It's Friday.
You look great.
Yeah, I'm like let's see here. Room 6. I'll join that. Okay.
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 Woo, room 4.
Okay, so there should be someone in each room now, except for room 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. I'm gonna go pop into some rooms then. We have 10
Yeah.
minutes. 10 minutes
Yes.
till we come back.
Sounds good.
All right. My goodness.
Hi.
We're doing okay.
Sorry, I don't know. I probably should brush my hair before I do this. Okay. So I guess I'm not in a room. So
Oh,
um,
did you try to get into room 6?
yeah, and nobody was
It
there.
wouldn't let you?
No, I was in there, but it was just me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
I'm
maybe
gonna check it out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What's
So
going
let's see. There is a breakout room. Let me see what I can do. Maybe I can join one. Let me join one myself here.
on? Okay,
Okay, I
I'm
just
gonna,
put you in room 4.
Oh, okay. Okay. You want to do that? See if it.
I think
Mhm.
everybody's going to room 4.
Hmm.
I'm a
Oh,
little
okay.
worried.
I would
There's,
put them into room 7.
okay, I'm gonna jump in and see what's going on.
Okay.
So good. Room 4 is definitely full, but there's some good conversations. I was thinking, oh, Shani and jumped in another room.
Yeah, I think so. She is in room 5.
Okay. I'm gonna go check it out too.
Hello, Crystal. Did you just join the meeting?
I just joined back in. I had to pop off for something. Are we all in breakout rooms or are we in?
Yeah, I'm going to assign you to room 7. So 1 sec here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
That was great.
Yeah, sorry about that. This is my first time doing the breakout rooms, but I think I got the hang of it for the rest of the meeting.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think I think I want to call people out in well, we have 3 minutes left.
Mhm.
So I think we're fine. I'm gonna have people share out just because I can tell in the group in the room 4, some people are not saying anything because it's so big. And so I
Okay,
just want
yeah,
to give them opportunity to share out because like myself, there's some people that like to talk.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
so um I'll try to like do them more evenly here for the next
Okay.
ones.
Yeah, I think it's great. There's discussion happening. So even though it didn't happen exactly how we wanted, it's good discussion still. So we appreciate
Okay.
you. Thank you.
No, yeah, of course. Margaret, were you able to go into a breakout room?
Okay, I'm gonna check in on the last breakout room.
Okay.
Okay, I'll be back.
Hi, Sonia. I am going to assign you there doing breakout rooms at the moment. So I'm gonna assign you to.
And I just came from that room. So that one's Shani. This is the big one. So there's really only 2, I think. Is there someone in this one? I'm gonna
They
check.
just joined right now, I think, in this meeting.
Okay. And room 3? Or
And I put them in Sonia, so I put her in room 7.
okay,
But
I'll
there's
check that.
nobody in room 1, 2, 3, only 4, 5, and 7.
And then Shani's in room 5.
Yes, room 5.
Okay, I'll go to 7 then. I just left that room. Okay.
Hi, B. I think we're just up on about a minute, and
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I thought breakout rooms would be easier.
Yeah. No, I think it's just because it's the first time that I've done it, but I'll do next time for like 5 rooms and then just evenly select a few to go into them.
Oh yeah, no worries, B.
Mhm.
I'm apologizing too for my lack of technical expertise with
Okay.
it.
It's okay. We're in the same boat.
Yes.
So did you want me to close them all here?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
If you want to close the rooms and bring everyone back, that'd be great.
Okay. Close rooms, close our rooms. So they're given 60 seconds to leave the breakout rooms.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Hey, Shani. Some good
Hey.
questions. So I was thinking we can give people the opportunity to put their own responses in the chat, just because like that larger group, I could tell some people were not speaking up as much as they probably wanted to. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be really great.
Okay.
I closed the room, so but it's taking it gives like a timer of 60 seconds. Right now there's just 20
Mhm.
seconds left.
But I was hopping around and there's so many good discussions going on. So, and people like reading the article. So it was good. I was happy. My teacher heart was happy. It's like when you feel like your people did their homework. It's like, yes,
Mhm.
good feeling. So, if you don't mind, Shani, we're gonna go 5 minutes over and it'll just be a 10-minute discussion. And I'm gonna go ahead and start the timer now. And I think everybody's back. All right. And so we were gonna go ahead and just open it up for groups to share out. I know that there was one group that was pretty large. So to add to group share out, if people want to put their responses, like what they were thinking or how they were feeling to the questions in the chat, I think those will be really great placeholders and points that we can also come back to, or just to further develop the conversation that we're going to be having and that we are having right now. So what group wants to go first? I always feel like my teacher heart comes out and I'm like, I can get some popsicle sticks and write names on them or the group numbers. I heard somebody talk though, sorry. So there was a large group. Shani, can you see the questions in the chat again, or do I need to repost them?
It looks like we need them reposted.
Okay. It looked like they cleared out. Okay, so just to kind of re-say what the questions were. The question one was, how do the inclusion of Indigenous perspectives contribute to questions asked in science? And then number two was, when we discuss public interest, who comes to mind? And I heard some really great responses as I was leaving the last group about public interest and, you know, who is normally considered in that kind of genre. And then I can even kind of check the Jamboard too.
I can start, Jessica.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Um, and please, anyone from my group, if I misspeak or if you want to add something, please feel free to. So for the first question, how does the inclusion of Indigenous perspectives contribute to questions asked in science? A lot of the responses in our group revolved around environmental sciences and kind of this connection that Indigenous peoples have and that they have had since time immemorial, right? So we have knowledge and experiences that have been passed down from generation to generation about these environmental phenomena and these different science processes. And it is often disregarded by Western science. I think that more and more it's being included and accepted, as we've seen like directives from the White House and things like that. But some of us said that, you know, we need to listen to Indigenous people's perspectives in science, and Western science needs to sort of assess where they went wrong and connect back to Indigenous knowledges. And then there were some of us who had questions about like how this relates to other sciences, not just environmental science. Like from my interest is in like social sciences, right? We also said that, you know, Indigenous peoples are not generally meaningfully included in the process of science, which I think you've all spoke to in this workshop series and are going to speak to more. And then moving on to the second question. So when we discuss public interest, who comes to mind? Some of us said whatever community or communities that they relate to. So whatever we're talking about, whoever it relates to. There's a question, is the public everyone? Is it who has the power, who has the money, who experiences the consequences of decision making? Is it doing the most good for the most people? Also thinking about the fact that Indigenous peoples are not often considered part of the larger public. There's not a lot of data or research done on Indigenous people's perspectives or public opinion toward certain issues. So how can that be included if they're not meaningfully asked those questions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I thought your group had some really great points as well. I think I heard something about that there is an urgency to addressing these issues and taking a stance in, you know, where we direct our research. And then I heard in the other group, I just wanted to make a point. It was the big room, call it the big room. But you guys had talked about value systems and how important it is to bring your value systems into the different initiatives that you're getting into and different research. And I just thought that was such a good point to be made, because we all have different value systems and different perspectives and different, you know, intersectionalities to our identity making. And we all bring something to the table. And so when we're including our value systems, you know, we have this more richer perspective and ability to look at a problem or an issue or an inquiry that, you know, brings lots of people to the table. But yeah, is there anybody else that wants to share? We have a few more minutes.
I mean, I was in the big group. I can talk. I'm not sure. We didn't really like assign our roles very, like, I know Lauren took down notes, but I think you were talking about Nick's comment that was really good. And I liked that Nick also talked about how these value systems in that context were really tied to language. And I think that somebody also kind of brought in the fact that like language is really tied to like, or maybe I stopped this. I don't know, maybe somebody said it, I can't remember, but like how language and sight and sort of investigating different perspectives gives rise to like different ontologies and like what we consider to be truth, right? To be reality, which I thought was just like such a like crazy fundamental question. Like, how do we like properly dictate like what comprises reality? And like one way to investigate that is like language, I think, because like that's so fundamental to how we see the world. So I thought that was, I don't know, maybe I'm just like mashing together a couple of comments, but that was kind of, I'm also gonna say Jen brought up a really good one too about apocalypse, and how, and she was so articulate. I'm gonna like butcher it because she just like nailed it, but it was like how, incorporating like say an indigenous perspective, like indigenous people have like in the face of like right now we're looking at like climate change and like these big kind of catastrophic apocalyptic issues. And thanks, Jen. But to turn to a group like indigenous people like who have experienced apocalypse before can be really useful, right? It can be really informative. And it also sort of kicks out the temporality of a lot of these issues that we're dealing with too, right? It looks at things like, I just think how like we're probably really used to looking at apocalypse on like 4-year election term cycles and something, like really small, minute, scales of time. And so there's just all these things. I don't know. There was like so much, but that was some of the points I know I picked up on, and anybody else can jump in on that. So.
And I think we have time for one more comment, and then we're gonna move on to our next session. But thank you, that was really great, Michael.
Yeah, just add to Michael's because I was working on something, but I just listen in. So he mentioned something about the language, how I want to do the indigenous language revitalization, and also the experiences, the story. Feel like we want to, respect the pedagogy and approach indigenous people love to do. Like, here are our languages, here are our voices, and how storytelling as approach, as an organic approach to, to listen to their voices. And also we cannot make assumptions about, who they are, what they do. It's more about you have to get your hands dirty to be with them, to really listen to them. And you're gonna know, all right, that is the way you do things. And that is, how I would respect and do research with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, researchers always bring all the positionalities, from the previous schema, prior knowledge, and the experience is just hard to, we all have bias, but how could we, try to not project our previous assumptions onto them? That would be, the very first thing to reflect your positionality.
Yes, thank you. Thank you guys, all of you, humans, people, thank you. I really love when we have our group discussions because it's just a place that we can all, really just share and talk and be in a vulnerable space of listening, but also being heard. And so I feel like it was really awesome to just kind of jump around to the different groups and see that, we're taking the time and we're engaging in critical conversation, and, this is where the work happens. So thank you guys. Shani, do you want to move on to the next session, or do you want to take a couple minutes? What would you like to do?
Yeah, if we could take like 5 minutes, I think a 5-minute break would be good. I'm kind of resituating in my room, and once we return, we can dive right in. I'm really excited to try to get us into some more breakout room discussion.
Awesome. Okay, so at 9:43 we'll come back.
Yes, yep, 9:43 sounds great.
Okay. Put the time there. All right, we will see you all in 5 minutes. I hope you were able to grab a quick bite or get some water, stretch your legs. We're going to be moving into Shani's presentation, and yeah, yep.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Jessica. I am going to try sharing my screen again. I'm trying a different setup today, and so far it's telling me I should go back to my regular setup. So are you seeing that okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, again, thank you guys for your time today, and we're really excited just to bring this concept of cultural humility forward and help you make meaning and situate it for yourself, and in the context of mentoring, relationships, and teaching. So just wanting to highlight again, like we did last week, that this kind of path we're on and thinking about how we might mentor, how we might teach, how we might engage and be in relationship in many different contexts, is more of a process and not necessarily anything that we can do a checkbox on. It's always a continual learning process and really lifelong journey that as we seek to understand one another. So I do want to quickly mention Dr. Veranda Montgomery. If you get a chance, I just recently got to hear her speak, I think in November, and she had an interesting article about mentoring in the context of career advancement for underrepresented minorities in STEM. And her thinking helped me frame this as well as process. And if you get a chance to look her up, I think she has a book called Lessons from Plants that I haven't read yet, but I'm kind of interested in. And she talked about that briefly prior, and all to say, I love learning and reading, and so I'll probably be sharing more different and related resources as we go. We just want to reiterate quickly that we are really all in this together, and we want to acknowledge that we have these kind of third rail conversations that can be really difficult and tense or make us feel uncomfortable, but really just to lean into that and to sit with it, and then ask ourselves, like, well, what's making me uncomfortable about this, while still giving that space and vulnerability for others to share.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to move a little quickly just because I really want I want us to be in conversation, and I'm very eager to get to our next breakout activity. But this is just a quick overview of where we're going with our presentation for this portion of today. We will be talking generally and giving maybe a little bit of examples through story, the Indigenous experiences and context in U.S. higher education. We'll talk about this concept of self-location, along with thinking about positionality, and also kind of, I think, critiquing it a little bit, and talking also from cultural competence to humility. And if we have time, I would love to go through some of the practices that show up in not only, like I said, our mentoring and relationships, but how it shows up in our teaching. So in the multiple ways that people see us. So with this, we just thought, again, this just is sort of to give us some context and start that conversation. And Jessica, I want to invite you to share, and you've already kind of explained beautifully, I think, prior, about the how and the why of how we show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Yeah, so I think when we're thinking about Indigenous research and how I was just thinking about last week's workshop series too, where we had a discussion about that we're not separate from research, that we're connected, and that part of my background is education and Indigenous education, and we think about how our knowledge systems are so embedded in our identities and who we are, and how just like my students in the classroom, I don't just see one individual person sitting in a seat ready to accept the knowledge that I'm going to bestow on them. That is not the case at all. But instead, that this person who is sharing the space, and we're sharing the space together, that they have their whole family systems, their communities, their whole life experiences, and a lot of times that there is a lot of reciprocity that happens when it comes to exchanging knowledge, that our people and my community members, they have so much expertise in a lot of different things that at times they're the ones that will step up and be the teachers, and kind of carrying that forward when we look at research and being in an institution, people that are mentoring Indigenous scholars. It's not necessarily just that one Indigenous scholar that they're working with, but that Indigenous scholar is an extension of many people that they bring with them. And so for myself and my husband, when we were going through, he was finishing his PhD at the University of Idaho. It was a very much a family endeavor, that when it was time for him to gather his research in mussels, that we went out as a family, and we were engaging in and learning, and all these different ways that we braided in together, methodologies of research, but also how we carry ourselves as a family. And that's something that we continue to do today, and our kids are really fortunate that that's how they understand research to be, that there's a procedures and protocols, the ways of being respectful to the land and the natural resources that we share, and that it's very much we are connected with the things that we're engaging in. I think I was going to share something else too. I think something I do want to acknowledge is that when we have people, you know, we're all trying to come from a good place, but when we have people that are doing that work to really amplify Indigenous voice, it's powerful. And there's Dr. Vanessa Anthony Stephen talks about cultivating relationships, and that, like you were saying, this is a lifelong thing. It's not something that can just be a box check, but that we are, this is ongoing work that's going to take time. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, no, that made such wonderful sense. And thank you for sharing about how you've engaged with research and knowledge on the land together as a family, and simultaneously meeting that purpose of pursuing knowledge and higher education with Sam's program. So wonderful, wonderful story. Thank you, Jessica. So to kind of dive in, I would love to see maybe in the chat, if you just want to, or even in your screen, you want to give a thumbs up if you've heard of self-location or positionality. Either one, I just love to maybe gauge familiarity and talk through a little bit of context. And I think context is just can't be understated in terms of how we think and where we think and why we think with different concepts. So self-location is a form of an Indigenous research methodology that a lot of Indigenous scholars employ, and I've learned, I suppose, a style of employing self-location from a mentor at Montana State University, and his article, I think from last week, provides a really cool example of how the co-authors situated themselves in relation to what they were talking about in their research article. And I think, you know, positionality, we have to be really careful with. It's not simply assigning yourself to demographic categories, but it's, oh, that's not on there, but it's really unpacking like the power and perceptions that are afforded to you from different categories that you might fit into. And so I also want to bring up a really interesting, so like I said, you'll probably hear me say this so much, but I love to learn, and I love to learn in many different spaces. And one of those spaces is academic Twitter. And I found an amazing thread from Dr. Autumn Blackdeer. She's Southern Cheyenne, and she has she's a decolonial scholar activist. But the way that she talks about positionality is that it can't kind of be presented as flat, that it's not simply this laundry list of anonymized identities that may or may not impact the work at hand. And she talks to some points that I feel like, Jessica, you've mentioned already, and talking about how positionality shouldn't be taught in a parking lot approach where people might list their identities and leave them in the parking lot, then go into the building and leave them out there. Mm-hmm. Critical positionality in what she's getting towards, and reflexivity, she writes, should be attended to throughout the work, not just up front. And so it kind of gets to your axiology too, and your ethics, and how you're thinking about how you're situated in the world, and throughout all of your processes, whether that's in relationship, mentoring, teaching, and researching.
Mm-hmm. And then if I could just add to, so I love talking about positionality and power dynamics, and I think these are also points that are interchangeable. So, you know, in different roles and different, you know, hats that we wear, there's different positionality and power dynamics. So me as a teacher, for example, being in a classroom, I have to be very mindful of my positionality and the power dynamics of me. You know, I have the power to grade students. I have the power to, you know, engage in different ways within the classroom, and to kind of steering and gear the way that we're going to be engaging in learning. The same thing with research. So as a researcher, there's positionality and power that goes with that as well. And working with communities that might have had negative experiences engaging in research, being mindful of that positionality and power, and how to, you know, empower the community to feel that there's, you know, an equal distribution of voice and perspective.
Yes, thank you, Jessica. So kind of just sitting with these two frameworks or concepts, if you will, we want to kind of keep those in our mind as we go into a breakout session.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, exactly kind of what Jessica was talking about. What do I bring to a relationship as a human being? How is that informed by how I self-locate myself, where I am located, and my positionality? That can be everything that we've talked about before with our recent article, that comes down to, you know, how we were raised, where we were raised, and how did that inform the development of our value systems. So really the self-location, again, it's a methodology that I don't want to flatten or minimize by any means, but we do want to engage with it today as a way to start this intentional practice of sharing background and positions.
Mm-hmm.
So to give you an example of what a self-location might look like in PowerPoint form, this is my own self-location that represents where I come from, the people that I love and live with and have responsibilities to, and also the land and the waters that I have responsibility to. And also thinking about our ancestors. It's not just those who are in this physical space with us now, but we also keep in mind the family and ancestors and their intentions for us, and their actions and sacrifices that they've gone through to ensure that we can be here today, is something I feel very strongly about. And so the landscape photos, the one with the ponderosa pine in the foreground is a picture of Lame Deer Creek, on Northern Cheyenne Reservation. We share boundaries with, political boundaries with Southeast Montana. But I do feel a very strong connection to my home community, being both Northern Cheyenne and Crow. It's an interesting balance to bring both worldviews to the front. But I will say, having been raised in Lame Deer for most of my life, it feels like I have an accountability there that I do want to still live, even in my current space that I'm in higher education. And so I've got grandmas and children. I don't want to go through it completely. Husband, parents, but this is merely one kind of form of a self-location that you might think about, and give you maybe a little bit of prompt as we go into a breakout session to explore our own self-locations and positionalities.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that example, and along with reading about it last week, what would your own self-location statement look like? And what does it have to do with cultural humility? I think those are the two questions that we want you to focus on in these breakout rooms. And just another reminder, sometimes when we talk about vulnerable parts of ourselves that make up who we are, just to take care with one another, and as well set those boundaries for yourself too. Only share what you feel comfortable sharing. And B, if you would give us, I'm going to stop share for a second and try to put these in the chat, and let us know how the breakout room is going. I do want to ask a friend to come in and possibly help make sure that we can get these rooms kind of sorted and assigned.
So I made another room and I added them equally. So if you want, I can just go ahead and open the rooms now.
Yeah, yes, wonderful.
Perfect.
And let me grab some text to put in the chat for folks.
Okay. And while you're doing that, Shani, I'll just add a couple words. Excuse me. So I think this idea of self-location is really powerful because it also challenges dominant narratives of, what does it mean to be a scientist, and you have to separate yourself, and, not be biased and all these different things. And in reality, we come into these places with lots of our value systems, our identity making. And how interesting would it be to introduce yourself when you're giving a talk or introducing your research, to have a self-location or a PowerPoint slide, as part of how you approach the way that you're going to be engaging and talking about the research that you're a part of. But yeah, that was kind of it.
Yeah, thank you for making that really, really good connection, Jessica. So let's really try this breakout thing one more time, and maybe we'll have a I was thinking about it in a house sense, like a living room where a bunch of people are sitting, and then a kitchen. But let's see if we can get us sorted. B. It looks
Perfect.
like we
I just invited everyone into a room.
Oh, great. Okay. I look at your
Perfect.
work. Yes. Thank you.
Awesome. So I'm gonna
you.
go around and put the question prompt in the chat because I don't think people have it when they go into their rooms.
Mhm.
And then when are we meeting back here?
10
o'clock.
Let's say it's 10 o'clock. Let's say 10:15 or wait, 10:19. 15 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna go into
Sounds
group
good.
4 or room 4.
Okay, great.
Hey, I think we have like a minute or 60 seconds till everybody comes out, right?
Yeah, do you want me to close it right now? And then it takes 60 seconds for them to
Yeah.
come back together.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm trying to do my best to keep time.
Yeah. Okay, so they should be back in shortly.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Everybody had a chance to talk.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
That was
I'm glad it
perfect.
finally worked.
Mhm. You're doing great. We appreciate it because I can't do it at all.
You're good. Bye.
I got kicked out.
Hello. You're in the College of Ed?
Jessica, are you talking to me? Sorry.
Yes. I just see
Yes,
your
I'm
logo
so
on
sorry.
here.
I'm so sorry. I couldn't tell that you were talking to me. Yes, I'm in the College of Ed, Health, and Human Sciences in Department of Human Sciences.
Awesome.
Mm,
That's
thank
my
you.
department. I'm pursuing my PhD.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
The PhD in the College of Ed, right?
Yep. Yeah. In
Nice.
curriculum and instruction.
Great. Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, it looks like everyone's back, and thank you guys for taking that really good time to just sit and share and reflect on and think together. I heard some amazing like stories and perspectives, and I because I guess in the interest of time, what I would like to do, Jessica, if this is okay with you, we've got about 13 minutes. But rather than, I want to go into just maybe 2 more slides, and then the kind of latter half of my presentation, I'll go through quickly, but put that content in the Google Classroom later, so that I think it's easily transferable and can be picked up in that way.
Yeah, and I'm just putting the Jamboard link again. I'm seeing people put some really awesome things in there, so you can also check it out and kind of see what the discussions were that were happening.
So thank you guys again for all of that wonderful sharing. It feels good to be there and learn with you and learn a little bit more about you. And with that, we do kind of want to maybe jump into a little bit more content, but I want to leave time at the end for further discussion, or if someone feels compelled to share with the whole group what they talked about in any of their discussions, I would love to keep that space for you to do that and love to hear it. So kind of situating cultural competence and cultural humility together. Dr. Sana Love, I love how she kind of framed these together. So this is work from her, and she talks about how cultural competence can be thought of as, you know, focusing on like a finite content of knowledge and acquiring that, just grabbing it and understanding it and mastering it. And it has some benefit. She talks about it allows individuals to monitor their own explicit biases and behaviors. But when I think about these two things, I think about them in relationship. And so it's like I think we can be even both depending on the context we're in. As an example, for myself, I feel like I'm still finding my way in a lot of the social norms of broader Western society in the United States. I don't always pick up the indirect communication or things like that. And then how that comes into higher education as well. I feel like I'm still learning and really want to grow my own cultural competence, if you will. So, but being in relationship to cultural humility, I think cultural humility takes it a little deeper and just positions us as assuming in every interaction there's going to be things that we don't know or understand. and then focuses on that process, if you will, focuses on development of a critical consciousness, and does require that kind of lifelong self-reflection. I feel like some of this is common sense based on all the wonderful discussions I'm hearing, so I will move on from this. And just quickly, some of these are things that I heard a little bit in our breakout discussions of what complicates us in how we might show up, right? So our own histories is a good one. And my own even implicit bias, if you will, as an Indigenous person who grew up on reservation of one of the tribes that I belong to, for me, that's a bias because it just automatically goes into my mind when I'm meeting, say, another Native scholar or person for the first time. My mind jumps to that of thinking like, oh, I bet you their upbringing was on reservation, and that's really not the case. I mean, even within our own Indigenous communities, at Northern Cheyenne, for instance, over half of our tribal citizenship live off the reservation. And I think that's true for a lot of folks. And so they build communities in many different and wonderful and beautiful ways. And that's a bias that I have and have to work on. And just knowing that identity matters when we're thinking about how we might build relationship and how we might offer in a mentoring or co-mentoring way with Indigenous people and students and communities. And I will say, even from personal experience, if we think about Indigenous identity on a continuum and how there are various strands or threads to it, there's a lot of cultural connections and things that can be made throughout a person's journey through higher education and research. And I can say that's certainly true in my experience with my master's degree. As part of doing that work, I was really able to grow relationship back home with folks that I knew and we were friendly, but really deepened our relationship and deepened my understanding of our own knowledges about water and the land. And just appreciating that, I think we are all self-reflective, but I think we can mostly just naturally be situated in a self-reflective way. So just kind of leaving that open as a way of practicing cultural humility is like, how might you support, if you had an Indigenous student you were mentoring, how might you support what they're working through and building in their own identity? So I think with that, we'll go into discussion. We have about 5 minutes, and the rest of the presentation has some really neat things about how cultural humility can kind of show up in your teaching and in research. And I'd love to put those on Google Classroom, but really, really love hearing from you all. So I'll just open the floor. And if anyone wants to share either in the chat, or you can turn your mic on and share with the broader group if you feel like it. Yes, give me 1 second.
And this is just to reemphasize that you can go back to the discussion that you had in your breakout rooms and answering one part of the question, both parts, it's open forum.
I can share something. So I think one of the kind of themes in our group's discussion was this idea of like when you grow up in some sort of like cultural framework that you feel a disconnect from, and you learn really early on to be very like critical of it, and to just like think a lot about culture in general and about like how you exist within your cultural framework, and then like in being exposed to a variety of other cultures as well, it like reinforces that idea of just awareness of cultures and yeah, awareness of how you exist in them. But there were a few of us that grew up like within cultures that we didn't feel a strong connection to, or even just like around mindsets that we didn't feel a connection to, and that had like a pretty significant impact on us.
I want to add something if that's okay. I think as a geographer, I'm in the geography department. I really like this idea of self-location just so much more than positionality, because it is flat a lot of the times, and people think they can write a paragraph and then put it in the start of every single PowerPoint and they're good to go. But this idea of self-location and thinking a lot about space, time, and perspective, again, those are the three things and three words that are constantly running through my head, and how we can use those three words when we're self-locating. And also the audience that we're giving that to, that perspective of, are you a teacher or are you a collaborator, or the perspective you hold in that moment that you're sharing, I think is just super interesting. As well as our group was talking a lot about how things can change in your self-location through space, specifically if you're moving to a different country, as well as time, maybe the political entanglements that are changing so rapidly currently, both in the state and in the country. It was really fruitful conversation, but I just wanted to share that idea of like space, time, and perspective, and how I just really admire that word self-location. I'm excited to use it in the future for sure.
Thank you both for sharing. Man, those are just really awesome, insightful ways that you're thinking with self-location and how even you might apply it, and just the complexities of all of it. I mean, there are so many layers and different strands that come in, and who we're accountable to and why, and even when there are tensions there too. So navigating all of that together. So thank you very much, Nick and Lauren. I think with that, we have about a minute left. Jessica, if you have any kind of closing thoughts you'd like to offer, or maybe open us up into the next presentation.
Yeah, I can go ahead and do both. So I just took a note, if we could add those cultural humility articles into the additional resources in Google Classroom. And then I just jotted down some notes, kind of hopping into the breakout rooms, and something that had also been talked about that really, I think is something that we should keep close to us and consider is, our personal perspectives, and how are those perspectives driving how we view science. And so whether that's us, being myself being in education, or, what brought us to education, what was our whys, what was our interests, and how that's evolved over time. And at the same time, like, what is the work that we're engaging in, and how can we bring those self-locations into the work that we are currently doing? So yeah, I think those are those are really great, and it's a really fun exercise. I kind of want to have a place on Google Classroom for people to make their own self-location slide. And I think it would be really cool for at the end of the workshop series that we, have this kind of product that we can share out and look at if people want to do that. So
That's an awesome idea, Jessica. I would love to see those too.
yeah.
So many beautiful ones, I can imagine. Yeah. I do want to make a quick note. So Dr. Strand and Kim and I are all in the same building. So instead of jumping right into theirs, if we could get maybe 3-4 minutes for us to kind of rearrange and we'll come back.
Okay, so we can take a pause, and at 11 my time, 10 o'clock your time, 10:35, we'll come back and get into it. And then if you can go ahead and introduce our next speakers, Shani, since you have the bios.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, cool. So I'll see you in about 3-4 minutes.
All right.
I got some coffee.
All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. We're going to give just a quick minute. Dr. Strand and Kim are in the room with me and are getting set up with their presentation as we speak. And I want to give just some brief introductions. I will start with Kim Stewart. She's an amazing, amazing young woman who I had the opportunity to meet through the project that this Indigenous Mentoring Program came from, the PNW Cosmos Alliance that Jessica mentioned earlier. And I can't believe it's been that long ago, but got to meet both Kim and her mentor at Heritage University. And just, it was really nice to stay in touch, and really, really nice that we've both landed at University of Idaho. And to just be in good space together as we're navigating our education journeys. And I know Kim is going to give a more expanded introduction to herself. And I do also want to quickly introduce Dr. Ava Strand. I am so glad to have you both here and to be presenting and sharing with us about your relationship and in mentoring, teaching, and in all senses of the word. So Dr. Ava Strand is currently our interim associate dean and associate professor of rangeland ecology and management. And again, because I love to learn, I may just put in Google Classroom a link to one of the wonderful books that Dr. Strand has been part of, particularly in identifying grassland plants. So yeah, just a very short introduction. I know you guys will be doing a little bit expanded intros, and would just invite you to share your presentation and we can get started. Apologies, we're having just a tiny bit of fun with technology right now.
And then share. And then which one is right there? This one? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, can you hear us? Yes. Do you want to stop pushing stuff? You can start. Okay. So thanks everybody for coming, and thank you so much, Shani, for inviting us. We're really excited to be able to share our story here. We've been working together for about a year now. So the title of our presentation is Native Scholar Advising and Being a Native Scholar. And I'll start talking a little bit about myself, and then Kim will start, and then we'll talk about how we have kind of come together and how we started to work together and how that's going. So thank you, Shani, again for introducing me. My name is Ava Strand. I'm a faculty member in Forest, Rangeland, and Fire Sciences Department. Also acting associate dean here for the college, which has been very exciting. And that's really the way that I have learned to know Shani much better than I did before too. So my teaching focus areas are rangeland ecology and landscape ecology. So at heart, I am an ecologist. Studying plants has been mostly what I'm doing. And I'm glad Shani mentioned the book that I've been working on with another graduate student of the grasses of Idaho. He made a beautiful book on photographing 80 different grasses that we have here in our state of Idaho. Research that I focus on has mostly been lately fire effects on plant communities, both forest, grassland, shrublands. Right now I have a project looking at fuel breaks, effectiveness, both for treating fire or changing direction of fire, but also effects on invasive species and plant communities in general, and also on the local economies and people. So it's an inclusive project. a little bit more about me. I'm not only a scientist. I was actually born in a different country. I was born and raised in Sweden and came over to the US in my 20s to go to school and ended up staying here. So this has really become my home. I'm fascinated by the Palouse Prairie and the grasslands. I have a picture here of the canyon grasslands. You can see the Snake River down here below. I wish I could have been here when the prairie was here. There's only 2% left, but I've been studying the remnants and being on there. Are we not sharing slides?
Oh, wait, is it showing anything?
Oh, no,
Oh.
it's not showing anything.
I thought
No,
it was. Oh, it's not sharing. Okay. There?
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, wait, I don't know if you wanted to go back.
that's
or stay.
okay.
Oh,
The first part was really just
okay.
talking anyway. So yeah, so here we have pictures. So, oh. So yeah, so a little bit about there were some pictures coming with what I was talking about here. So back to my family, I have gathered some pictures. I wish I had also had time to get some pictures of my mother and father who are not with us anymore, and other family members. But here up above are our daughters. There is Maya and Katja and Anna, and they all are now married and have babies. So my life is really full of babies right now. I have 4 grandchildren, and the oldest is going to be 3. So I feel very, very lucky about that. So let me move forward with Kim. Do you want to go next?
I just like to thank Shani for inviting Dr. Shannon and I to be on part of this. My name is Sikasa, and that's my Indian name. My English name is Kimberly Stewart. I'm from the Yakama Nation in Washington State. Before I came to Heritage, I was at before I came to University of Idaho, I was at Heritage University, and I got a bachelor's of environmental science there. And currently I'm a PhD student in the natural resources program, and Dr. Strand is my major advisor. Let's see. So before I shared a little bit more about myself, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my tribe's creation story. So before the creator created the humans, he asked the animals and the plants to come forward, and back then they had a voice, and he asked them to come forward and to and he asked if they would sacrifice himself for us, for the humans, and because he knew that we were like pitiful, so he asked them to come forward. And so after they sacrificed themselves, well, the salmon came first, and then the water, and then everything else. And so after they sacrificed themselves, they no longer had a voice. So we're the voice for them now. We have to represent them. And so we have feasts, and at these feasts, we always say chush before, and that's when we drink the water. And before we go out and gather, like when we go fishing or hunting, we usually have feasts before you could go out and do that stuff. We recently had a feast for the roots, and it's where we're just given thanks, and it's called Koisha, and that means feast. And let's see. So growing up, I would go with my family to the mountains to gather, pick huckleberries and dig roots. And we would stay up by, there was this place called Potato Hill. It was I didn't get a picture of it, but this is a picture of Mount Adams right here. But some of my best memories are being in the mountains with my family. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. One of my grandpas just passed away last week. And sorry, take a break. But he was one of the ones that would be in the mountains with us a lot. Sorry, I didn't know I was gonna cry. When I practiced, I didn't cry. Um, so yeah, I have a lot of good memories being in the mountains and being with my family and carrying on our traditions. And that's actually what brought me to natural resources, because in high school, I knew I wanted to help protect and preserve the natural resources. And so that's why I went in to Heritage University to get my bachelor's in environmental science. And because I know I want to help be the voice for our plant and animal relatives because they sacrificed for us. And also I want to be able to help pass on this knowledge for future generations so they could carry on our traditions. And so when I came to school, it wasn't about me, it was about my family. And so that when I came to University of Idaho, Dr. Strand actually wasn't my first advisor. I was with Dr. Sophie Gilbert, but while we were getting my committee together, Dr. Strand, we asked her to be on my committee because she had experience with plants, and that was Sophie's background, and Dr. Strand agreed to be on my committee. And then Dr. Strand Dr. Gilbert ended up leaving academia. And I was really lucky to that Dr. Strand agreed to be my major advisor. And I feel like when it happened, I felt stressed at first because I felt like I was starting over and I was nervous, but I got really lucky with Dr. Strand because she's been a really good advisor. I feel like she's I like that even though she's a doctor, she's like, it seems like she's trying to learn from me too, like about our culture and stuff. And she's not just, I like that she sees me as an equal and we're learning together. We're going through this process together. So that's been really helpful. And my project is really starting to come together this semester. So I feel like things worked out for the best. I don't know if my voice is all shaky.
That's good.
It's because I was.
You're good. Yeah.
So
Do you
I
go to
think
the next?
yeah, the next one.
Let's see what we have there. Oh, this is,
Oh, I went ahead.
we have said some of those things.
Oh yeah, and we also have asked Dr. Vanessa Anthony Stevens to be on my committee because I recently took a course with her last spring, and it was about decolonizing. It was called Decolonizing Indigenous Action-Based Research Methods, and I really learned a lot in that class. And I know for one of our projects we did an assignment where we had to interview someone, and I actually interviewed Shani for mine. And I wanted Vanessa to be on my committee because she has experience with working with Native communities. And I know for my project, I want to interview people from my tribe, and she has a lot of expertise in that. So I'm happy she agreed to be on my committee.
Yeah, I think that's an important part too, because I don't really have that experience. So we really do need to have a committee that has that social science experience and has more experience about working with Indigenous research methods, since I'm more trained in the traditional Western methods. Yeah, we really want to have Vanessa as part of that.
Yeah.
And we're meeting with her. We probably should set up a meeting with Vanessa soon and get with her. Should we move forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing I really like about working with Dr. Strand is it's not all formal. Sometimes we go to coffee shops and meet up, and it's like informal, but I feel like it's more personal. And I'm able to just text her when I need something. And I feel like I like that we get to talk about personal stuff too, not just school. I feel like I was able to connect with her a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think going on that field trip together.
Yeah.
So Kim and I, I'm a part of a group of faculty members that lead a field trip that goes down to southern Idaho to looking at measurements of plant communities and looking at soils. And Kim came on that field trip because she was taking the course, and we had a chance to drive down all the way to southern Idaho and then spend 3 nights. I think we were camping out there and cooking out together with the group. And there was also students working group, and you got to work with other students as well on reporting. So that was a good opportunity for us to spend some extra time together too.
Yeah, and it was like a 8-hour drive there, an 8-hour drive back, and that was our first time meeting in person, because besides that, we only met over Zoom.
Yeah.
So it was really nice way to get to know her. And
Yeah, I mean, we started working over COVID, so
Yeah.
we really had only had a chance to meet over Zoom.
Oh yeah. And Shani, she's really been a big help since I've been here at University of Idaho. Even when I was working with Sophie, I feel like Sophie and I would meet with Shani, and Shani is always there to help. And then she's also meeting with me and Dr. Strand a lot, and I feel like I see her as a mentor, and I really look up to her.
Yeah, I thank you, Shani. You really help us, and it's been so great to be able to work with you too.
Readings.
Yeah, then we have been sharing readings. So Kim, when Kim takes classes, she often sends readings to me, so I get to read them too. And then the reading that Shani has shared with us, I think that really helps both of us, or the three of us, to kind of get on the same page a little bit and learn from each other and learn about more of the Indigenous research methods. I think that has been especially important for me, since that's nothing that I have in my background. So thank you again, Shani, for doing that, and for Kim to being willing to send those readings to me, so I can brush up on things that I really need to be more aware of. Yeah, so there's a lot of things we need to do together as an advisor and a student that all PhD students have to go through. So we were going to go through some of those, if that sounds like that would be helpful. So selecting committee members, we still really don't have your committee fully. Do you want to talk about that?
So far I have Dr. Strand and Dr. Vanessa Anthony Stevens, but what I really like about the program that I'm in is I'm gonna be able to ask a tribal elder to be on my committee. And Dr. Strand, she's been really open to that, and I'm just trying to find one back. I'm getting in touch with people from my tribe, so eventually I'll have someone on my tribe on my committee. So I'm really thankful that I'm able to have someone on there. And Dr. Strand, she gives me like recommendations of other professors from the university, because we're still looking for what is it called?
The inside person. Yeah,
Yeah.
we need one that's in our committee. So we're supposed to have 3 people from within our committee and 1 external person. So we're still looking for 1 more person, but it's been kind of hard to find somebody that we haven't quite gotten there yet, but we'll get there soon. And thanks to we've talked to Jerry McMurtry also at COGS, of course. He's been really supportive of having a tribal member on your committee. He kind of recommended that to begin with. So that's really, I think that'll be good. And you kind of have it, maybe know some person to ask, but maybe when you go back next time. The workshop study plan.
I really like working with Dr. Strand, because for my study plan, I feel like with her, I'm actually taking courses that I want to take and that are relevant to my research, because now I'm taking more classes like right now I'm taking an Indigenous pedagogies class, and Shani is actually one of the teacher, like a co-instructor on that. And I feel like now that I'm taking classes that are relevant to my research, that's why my project is coming together more. And I really appreciate that Dr. Strand listens to my needs, because with Sophie, I feel like I was kind of taking more like classes that I didn't really need to take. So I'm really happy that Dr. Strand listens to my needs.
Yeah, I think you're really getting the research methods now that you
Yeah.
need to be able to do your own research.
Mhm.
Yeah, then another big step that we'll have to
Oh, yeah.
go through here soon is the comprehensive exam for our PhD at the University of Idaho have to do. So we've been talking about what kind of format should we use, and this is a discussion that Jenny has been part of as well. And we've come to the conclusion that, and also talking with Dr. McMurtry in the College of Graduate Studies, that a presentation for the tribal council might be one way to do the preliminary exam.
Yeah, and I feel like this is really important to me, because I want to, as an Indigenous researcher, I want to be able to show my people be held accountable and respect them. So the presentation to tribal council, I feel like, is a really big thing for me, and I'm happy that I'm gonna be able to do this.
Yeah, that'll be maybe next year. Yeah, next fall, maybe next.
Yeah, in the fall.
Yeah, probably in the fall. So that's something that we're working on and setting that up.
Should we move this?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're kind of coming to our next steps, I guess. We're looking at starting Kim's research with human subjects research. And do you want to talk about our conversation that we had with Yolanda that really helped us kind of get on the right path for that?
So recently we spoke with Dr. Yolanda Bisbee, and she's in charge of, she's in the tribal relations office, and we were talking to her about the IRB process. And she was just letting us know that we go to her after we go through the tribe. The tribe has to see everything and approve it all first before we could go to her. And I'm gonna be hopefully meeting with someone from my tribe soon about the IRB process. And it's crazy because the one who I need to speak to back home for the IRB process, she was actually my high school math teacher at tribal school. And I feel like I think it's just wild, because in high school, like for that math class, I was always running on Indian time, and I was always going into her class late. And now she's gonna see me like coming to her in grad school and asking her about the IRB process. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, that'll be great. So you can maybe do that next week and maybe, yeah, if you can get the tribal IRB done. It's really fortunate because the Yakama Nation already has an MOU with the University of Idaho. So it should be, at least it's a process that kind of is already, there's a path for doing that. So that would help, I think, help Kim a lot to make that go more smoothly. So all the work that Yolanda's office, the Office of Tribal Relations, has been just tremendously important for everything that we try to do.
And oh yeah, so hopefully this May, Dr. Strand will be able to come to my the site where I want to do my research at. It's Cultivation Flats. I don't think I mentioned the name of the place, but I just had to get a permit for her to be able to come there because it's in the closed area. But I'm really excited that she wants to come out and see the site, and I hope that I'm able to show her, and then she'll be able to see a little bit about like where I grew up and the site.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. So I think that's
it.
the end of our presentation. Yeah, we had a list of some of the readings that we had read together.
Did it get deleted?
Oh, maybe it got deleted.
I think it did.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, so that's our presentation. So if anybody has questions, or if you have anything more comments from Shani.
Yeah, thank you guys for sharing your your relationship and journey through education, and I am just feeling really deeply grateful for all the ways that different places are making space and support structures for Kim and generally us as Indigenous researchers, and how we want to show up to our research and the why behind that. I think Kim, you talk about it so beautifully about being accountable to your community and finding ways to reflect that in your research and education journey. So it's really wonderful. I do want to ask Kim if you might generally share a little bit more about the broader theme of your research and in First Foods.
Okay. So, oh yeah, I don't think I got to that because I started getting emotional. So my project, the meadow is called Serration Flats, and they're doing a restoration project there where they're trying to restore or improve the flow of the water stream. And that's hopefully going to restore the meadow conditions to what it used to be and support our first foods. One of them is called Sawig, and that's the Yampa. And then the Wakamu is the Camas. And it's also supposed to improve the stream flow for the steelhead trout downstream. But my research, I wanted to look at it, not only what makes it successful biologically, but also from like a human side, I guess, because they're supposed to be restoring it. And it's one of our meadows where we historically went and gathered. So I feel like I want to measure the success of it from our side, because like, why are they doing it if I don't know if that makes sense. But I wanted to study the success of the harvest as a metric of the restoration, and hopefully I wanted to get some people who okay. Right there. Okay. We wanted to, sorry. I'm getting distracted because of the screen. I want to interview people from my tribe who are gatherers or people along Cowes, and how they historically remember the meadow, the Serration Flats. And also I wanted to get some community members to go and gather there and maybe see how much of an area it takes for them to gather to fill their baskets. I'm still working out more of the details, but so far, yeah.
What kind of changes have happened there that you said before that they had more trees growing in?
Yeah,
there,
so I know they had timber harvesting that, and then cattle degrading the area, the meadow. So they're just trying to restore it to previous conditions.
To restore to be more beneficial for the first foods, to be able to produce the more first foods.
To be able to produce the foods there again, and also just to improve the stream flow for the down.
Yeah, the water flows. That's right. Yeah, it would be really great to be able to go and look at that. And we also had some calls with your fisheries department with
Tom Elliott.
Yeah, we talked to Tom. And he seems to be really interested in what you're going to do as well. So that's good.
I had a question. First off, thank you both again for coming to speak at our workshop series. This conversation has been so insightful, and I've actually jotted down a few things.
Sorry, Jessica, I'm not sure if anyone anyone else in Zoom, but we can't hear your audio.
Oh no,
I can hear.
Jessica.
B, we might need your help figuring out sound.
I think people can hear on our end.
Just ours?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay.
Okay, everyone can hear except for us.
Can we turn off the
One
volume?
second.
I think I muted it. Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
I muted it.
Sorry, user error.
Can you hear me now?
If you click on the mute option, it has like the little if you scroll, usually sometimes it might be connected to a different speaker that is not on the audio, so that's probably why, I'm guessing.
Okay, are we good?
Okay, now we can't hear Shani.
I know. How about I put my question in the chat and then you guys can put your sound back
Should we
on.
go over there? We can do
Oh, there we
that.
go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fine, right there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I can hear you. Awesome. So I was saying thank you both for joining us today with the IMP workshop series that we're engaging in, and I was just commenting that I've learned a lot from your guys' presentation in just this short amount of time, and jotting down my own, notes as I also, go through school and trying to navigate the space of being an Indigenous scholar as well. But I thought it was so amazing, and if you could speak a bit more about the relationship you two have where you meet each other's needs. And I think something that I've found and I also gravitate towards is I try to find people who I feel not only comfortable with, but there's this sense of community, and like we have to have relationships that go past just like the emails and the monthly check-ins, that we really have to be building this relationship. And I just think you guys had some really great points of whether it's like texting or having weekly check-ins is amazing. Like that's something that I think is very needed with as we engage, and sometimes as we're away from school too, because we don't have that support system that we're used to at home. So if you could speak to that a little bit, I think that would be great. And also kind of keeping in mind too that these practices of mentoring Indigenous scholars, they're also practices that are great for everybody, and that it's really a holistic way of mentoring.
Do you want to?
I don't know the question.
Yeah, I guess, like, has there been any moments of mentorship that have really stood out to you as an Indigenous scholar?
I guess just Eva really being open and trying to learn about my culture and like just Indigenous ways. She always gets excited when I send her new things or when I tell her about stuff from my tribe, and I feel like just seeing her really excited for me and for everything. I guess she's like when she hypes me up.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important to know what Kim wants to do. That's important to me to understand that, and I think that takes a little bit of time, but I think we worked together now for a year, so I have a pretty good, and I mean we're still growing, we're still learning from each other, but an idea what Kim wants to do, and that you want to work with your tribe and get close to your tribe, and working with the fisheries and working with the meadows, and learning more about the first foods, and just improving that, and that means a lot to me. It's such a beautiful goal that Kim has.
And I think too, your guys' relationship is a good example of, if you are wanting to take on an Indigenous scholar or be a mentor, that there's work that's involved, that you're going to have to do the readings, you're going to have to take the time to have the discussions, to meet the community, to really understand not only that you're working with an Indigenous scholar, but that not all Indigenous scholars are the same, that we all come from different nations and we come from different backgrounds and homelands and, you know, things like that. So I just wanted to highlight that because I hope, you know, that's something that's taken away from this conversation too, is that it is work.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that Dr. Strand is understanding of, like, when I have stuff back home with my family, she's understanding when I need to go back, or like for emergencies or for funerals. And
You've had a lot going on in your life this year with your family and your grandfather and everything. So, but we still Zoom, we still have meetings. We don't skip our meetings. They might be short, but we don't skip our meetings. We try to have them, or even if it's just a short phone call or a text, if it's a difficult time, but we try to keep in contact even through those times. So we don't lose track of each other.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Okay. Sorry.
We can't hear you, Shani.
oh, wait.
we mute ourselves, and technology is not my friend today, so I apologize for my struggles. But I'm really curious, maybe if you could share a little bit more about just how you're making space to be who you are throughout the whole research and education process, specifically, like maybe sharing a little bit more about what the conversations were, or the process for expanding the definition of your committee and being able to have a tribal member on the committee.
Is it muted?
No,
Oh,
we
no,
can
it's
hear you.
Okay. So I know when I joined the cohort, a big thing that made me apply was for the Bridge Doctor program, was because they were encouraging traditional knowledge. And I know in the past we asked Jerry about having a tribal elder committee member, and I know I talked to Dr. Strand about it when she became my major advisor. And we were looking into someone back home that someone who dig roots or is a member of the longhouse. And I know that I don't know, I had someone in mind, but for my tribal elder, but I didn't know if like a family member would be not a good choice, or if it would be. So I asked Dr. Strand about that, and I forgot what you told me.
Yeah, we'll have to probably talk to Dr. McMurtry.
Yeah.
Talk to Jerry about that. I don't know, family members are usually not on committees. I think that may not work, but
so I'm trying to find someone back home who I'm not related to, because I feel like I'm related to a lot of people.
and yeah, we just have to work with the graduate studies and talk to Jerry. Maybe we should do that sometimes after you have identified a person or a couple of people, a couple of elders that might fit, and that might be wanting, that would be interested in your project and interested in you and interested in how your project can contribute to the tribe.
And we've been talking to Donella Miller. She's from
Yeah.
my tribe. She used to be the fisheries manager, but she moved to Critfic. And but she was helping me find a committee member. But since she moved to a different job, she got me in touch with a couple other people from fisheries. So we're still hopefully Dr.
Yeah.
Stroud and I can meet with them over Zoom sometime.
Right, that would be good. Is that a common practice that an elder can be on the committees? Has that been discussed before, or is this coming up now? I know, yeah, Lauren, you are right in there. You might know.
So I know it's at least been a thing for the last 3 years, but I don't know about before that.
So maybe when the Bridge to Doctorate program began, maybe that's when that it was realized that that would be an important part of the committee.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a catalyst in making it like widely known that that's an option. But I'm not sure if there were instances before then where that was allowed. But yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
There have been instances before, especially if the research project is taking place on tribal land. But it's a case-by-case basis, and Jerry makes room for that.
Yeah, he's been really helpful with that. And he when I first talked to him too, he said that he thought that would be a good idea to have a tribal elder on Kim's committee. And I think that sounds wonderful, because it's really going to go back to the committee, and they have all the knowledge of the tribe and the needs.
I'm very excited about this. Like, I'm just learning, and I am currently getting my committee together, so that it's really exciting to me. So thank you guys for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
What was their question? I didn't check.
Oh, there might be lots of questions.
Oh, no, there isn't.
I suppose, at the risk of wanting to keep my nose in the literature, I was just wondering if you could talk about any literature that you've come across that has been really foundational to how you're approaching your research, or how you're doing your research.
I know in Dr. Vanessa Anthony Stevens' class, some of the readings that she assigned was the Decolonizing Methodologies by Linda Smith. So that's been one that I've been going back and looking at those papers from that class. And I don't have them, I don't remember them off the top of my head, but that's like one of the ones that stuck with me. We did have a slide actually that had like recommended readings, but we accidentally deleted it.
It got deleted. Yeah, the reading that Shani recommended too, from the Brave Boy reading about the CRIM CRIM concept, that's been a very useful reading too, I think. And then the reading today that you had selected by O'Brien, that was a good reading. But we had a slide, but it got deleted. Maybe we can find it.
Yeah, if you would be willing to share it, I'd love to see it and be able to share it on the Google Classroom.
And that would it'll be a growing list, because I mean, as we continue, we will be reading more. And we also found a thesis that somebody had done, an Indigenous scholar, I assume, I'm not sure, on starvation flats where Kim is going to work. So that had been published in 2002. So I think that was a great find. We just right now got it from the interlibrary loans. So Kim can use that as a background of research that actually was done on the location where she's doing her research. I haven't even looked at who the student was. But we'll get there.
So we have a question posed by Lauren, and she's asking Kim, what has been helpful for you when navigating the admin components of grad school, like knowing when things are due and how to approach different forms, requirements, etc.
I feel like the bridge to the seminars that we have for the bridge doctor, I feel like those have been helpful because we sometimes we go over the different requirements for grad school and stuff like that's been really helpful. That or asking other people in the cohort about their experiences with it, because some of them started before I did. So it's nice to have like a cohort with you that started around the same time and that are going through the same thing as you.
I love the idea of being part of a cohort, and it makes me think of, sometimes when we do the research and approach things the way we want to and apply the methods and methodologies that we want to reflect our own value systems and responsibilities and accountabilities. Sometimes that can feel like in isolation a little bit. And so I really like that you have that cohort support. And I'm just wondering if you might expand a little bit more on that side of how you're navigating your program, and anything you wish to share from the Bridge to Doctorate program.
Yeah, so each semester usually we do have seminars where we meet every couple of weeks, and that's been helpful because it like when I first started, it had a lot of helpful tips for navigating grad school, and they bring in speakers. And I know recently we were trying to start potlucks. We had a potluck in February with the Bridge Doctorate seminar, and last week we went bowling. It was pretty fun, and it's just nice. Sometimes we try to get together outside of school. We had not a Friendsgiving. It was like before Christmas break. We had a white elephant. I think I forgot what it's called. White elephant. What is it? The game? The gift exchange? Yeah, we did that. We went to Cassandra's house and a lot of us went. I think almost everyone was there for that. It was really fun. I don't know if wait, did I get way off track of your question?
No, you're describing exactly like it's really cool because in one way it's formal, right? Like you do have a set seminar that you might register for as a course, and then the relationships you build within that cohort provide support in so many ways outside of that kind of formal school setting.
That was one of the reasons that I applied, because I seen that there was going to be a cohort, and I felt like without the cohort, when I seen the sign and I seen, like I said, the 12 Native American cohorts and then the traditional knowledge, like those are the two top things that made me want to apply. So I feel like the cohort's really been a big part, because I feel like there's not a big Native community here in Moscow. Besides, I know like the NASC Center, the undergrads, sometimes I see them, but I feel like it's just nice having other Native graduate students. And yeah.
And you've been able to go to conferences too. That's been really helpful from the Bridge Doctorate and
oh yeah.
Jerry.
Last month in March, Jerry paid for some of us ladies to go to Albuquerque. The Native American Fish and Wildlife Society, they had a Native Women in Agriculture and Natural Resources Symposium, and it was the first one. And it was really cool to go there and to go there with some of the people in the cohort, experience that together. It was really nice, and Jerry took care of that for us. So
it seemed like you were very excited when you came back. You were just really thrilled about what had happened and what the people you've been able to meet and the exercises that you've been doing. It looked like it was a really good conference too.
Yeah, the learning and networking that went on there was really, it was really cool. Like they had just this personal development stuff about, you know, developing your own, I think it was a leadership plan.
Yeah.
And then they had other spaces for us to talk and network and share ideas. And that is, I think, just equally as powerful in providing I would say an even broader circle of support is knowing that you have gotten to meet some ladies who are working in natural resources or ag in many different lands, in their own lands, and just being a support for one another that way too. Well, you both have been amazing. I know that we are trying to probably gear up for our last panel, and just want to thank you guys for your time and even for everything that you've shared. And some of these things just like hit really close and just sit here and just make me feel so good about the successes you're having and the way that you navigate relationship together. So with that, if you have any questions or anything occurs to you, we would love to maybe keep track of them in the chat and maybe bring them forward to Dr. Strand and Kim at a later date. But for now, I think we're about 3 minutes out from our next session. And Jessica, is there anything else we might need to do or any?
Oh, should I say that? Thank you for having us on and for inviting us to do this, Shani. And thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Mhm.
And we're
Yes.
here to know, you have our email addresses,
Yeah.
so you can get hold of us.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you both again. There was a lot of good learning and just lots of information to take in and good examples of how we can all work in a mentor and mentee roles. I think, Shani, we can go ahead and take a break and get ready for our next panel, which is going to be us talking about so the University of Idaho Indigenous Scholars and Alumni, talking about just our experiences within the institution and things that we need, experiences that we had that could be lessons learned, and just having a good discussion. I think we can take like a 10-minute break. Does that sound okay, Shani?
Yeah, that sounds great. So we'll plan to join all back together at 11:38. Yes.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you. Shani, if you want to hang on for a second and I can have a quick call, or maybe you can call me.
Yes, I'll call you.
Sounds great. I'll talk to you in a bit.
Recording in progress.
This is where we're at. Okay. So just to give a little bit background for myself, so I am pursuing my PhD in education and curriculum and instruction. And so a lot of my perspectives and lens looking at research is also looking through an education lens and Indigenous education. And so I thought I would elaborate a little bit on cultural competency. I guess the other part too is that my husband and we have a nonprofit that both of us co-founded called River Nua, and part of the work that we do on top of educational outreach is that we work with different partners and individuals interested in cultivating relationships and alliances with our tribal community. And one thing we pause to talk about is cultural competency. And so when thinking about cultural competency, and I think I'm going to go ahead and just share this. Can you guys see this? Okay. So when thinking about cultural competency, we are looking at, you know, in connection in some sense to our self-location. But we are needing to understand what our own cultures are. So it doesn't any, you know, everybody and anybody in the room, what is our culture? We need to have a sense of understanding where we come from. And then by doing that, we can then start to learn and understand what are other people's culture, and the role of culture in education or learning, or in this case, research. And so a lot of times, you know, I think about the idea of power dynamics again. And when I'm working with young people or working with, you know, anybody really, I'm not going to ask people to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And so if I'm asking people to share their culture or share their identity, I'm also expecting from myself that I'm going to be sharing who I am as well. And that really puts us all in this space that is, there's equity there, or that we're able to have a conversation, you know, addressing the power dynamics that are in the room. And then when we apply cultural competency into learning, we're centering our students' learning, or the people we're working with. We're centering their culture as the basis for learning. We're communicating high expectations, and we're going to be reshaping curriculum, learning, research that reflects the students and the people's diversity. And so I think a really great example is, you know, working with, I know, you know, certain cultural practices and knowledge systems within my own tribal community, but I am not going to assume or project that I know what is in Kimberly's community. There might be similarities, or there might be things that we can relate to, but I am fully respectful in the sense that we are different tribal nations, and that we have knowledge systems that are important to us. And then also that those knowledge systems are something that we can share and have as part of our identity making. And I think this is really important when we go into research, because when we bring those different ways of knowing into a space, this leads to better educational outcomes or research outcomes for all learners. And so I had talked earlier about, you know, the idea of mentorship and approaching it in a more holistic way that is 100% going to serve Indigenous students better. But it's also going to serve, you know, all students better. If we can have kind of stepping outside of the box of what is the standard mentor-mentee relationship, and looking at each other as human beings with different positionalities and backgrounds, and self-location, and just cultural awarenesses that we bring with us, it's going to serve everybody, you know, to have this more rich conversation. And so right here is a picture of my daughter, Malia. And, you know, I am a researcher, I am a student, I am a teacher, but I am first and foremost a mother and a wife and a daughter. I am first and foremost a citizen of the Shoshone-Bannock tribes, and I carry myself that way. And so there is this political background that comes with the package of like who I am, right? And so thinking about those things and thinking about cultural competency, that whoever I'm going to be working with, I'm going to be wanting them to understand me, but I'm also going to be taking the time and effort to understand where they're coming from as well. So I am going to stop for a second, stop sharing, and I just want to check in and see if anybody has questions as far as cultural competency. And then if not, we're gonna kind of move along to Shani, and just to put a note, these slides are gonna be available in Google Classroom as well. And I am going to see. Okay.
Yeah, so for
That's my 5 minutes.
I think for, I guess, our context here, speaking from like a scholar situation and being a PhD student, there's a little bit more I want to kind of maybe untangle or relate in terms of cultural competency and cultural humility. So this is like a piece of what we're introducing as cultural humility, and kind of these broader, I guess, broader strokes of it, if you will. And I do want to also potentially, Jessica, as an exercise, kind of finding, you know, what might be considered cultural competency or humility, and trying to kind of sit with those differences, but also how they're related by looking at a document that was actually used, I think, in a previous iteration of this program. And it's a lot of cultural competency and humility work has started in the health disciplines, I guess. And so that's where some of our first sources came from. And there's one that I just want to, I'm really curious what people might think about and respond to, and say, well, yeah, this is helpful, or kind of situate it, put it in context, right? So kind of, again, avoiding thinking just we can pick up a certain piece of knowledge and then that's good, like we're good. So kind of unpacking cultural humility a little bit more. There's a lot around it, and I love thinking with many different places and disciplines. I think this one came from University of Oregon, that cultural humility affirms that no individual can possibly learn all aspects of any culture, including their own. And I think that goes a little bit to like, well, what are you called to do, and what might you be asked to be responsible for in your community, and tending to that piece, and trusting others to take care of other pieces and responsibilities. And so again, it is self-reflection, and how we might think about cultural humility in teaching, learning, and research. I do want to give, maybe through story, if we have time, I do want to get you guys talking again. I think that'd be great to jump back into a breakout room exercise, rather than hearing me give my own story. This is another really good way of thinking about cultural humility in terms of scale. So one of the things that stood out to me when Dr. Strand and Eva were talking was the way that the institution was accountable and tending to cultural humility. And I saw that show up in the process. So the process of Kim's committee establishment, merely just being open, that practicing that openness. I think that Ava and Dr. McMurtry practice really makes it possible to live those values that we come from through our educational and research journey. So I felt like that was a really good example of how an institution can show up and have and express cultural humility at that scale.
If I could jump in there really quick, I think you brought up
the other thing we didn't really dive into, and Jessica, feel free to chime in, but it is really about decentering ourselves, but acknowledging the power imbalances that are unique to our context. And so in my own instance, I remember I'm very careful when I go back to my home community. I know that people will kind of try to suss you out, like after you've gone out to get more education, and they might tease you, or they might just kind of find ways to gauge where and who you are. Like, how much has this education changed you as a Northern Cheyenne and Crow person? The change I think that they're sussing out is like, are you still feeling that relational accountability to us? Is kind of what I feel they're trying to gauge when I go home. So knowing though that being in a position of being able to attend beyond high school and being educated, that is, I think, a power imbalance when I go home. And so I really practice just being in conversation with folks and not initiating conversation, talking about myself or my journey or my process. It's like, if people want to know about it, they'll ask you. And then they'll also, I guess in my own community and culture context, people will talk for you, if that makes sense. So they've taken on the job of telling people about you and what you're doing, so that you don't have to do it. So that's a way I know I try to address power imbalance through my own privilege of having more education and when I'm navigating back home. And I like this too. It's kind of it felt like a powerful statement that I want again to share from University of Oregon, that just says, you know, what it is not. And then so you can read all of that. And I want to close, keeping mind of time, with saying that we have competencies that we can be in depending on our context. So if I'm an Indigenous researcher in higher ed, I may be limited in my competencies in moving in that space, in terms of like how I might engage other researchers or faculty in projects, because if I treat them the way that I would want to be treated, it might come across unclear or maybe uncertain. And so kind of just, I feel like in generally Western communication, it's more of a direct thing. So like talking from A to B to C about what you might want to achieve or do or collaborate with a person. And for communication as an Indigenous person, it's really high context. It's also about what someone doesn't say, or if they pose something as a question versus outright being direct to you. So that's what I think about when I think about cultural competence and humility in a communication context as an Indigenous person. But if you have further questions, I know we've kind of done like a flyby of cultural humility. There's a lot to talk about and unpack, certainly, and I would love to share more resources, and maybe we can kind of unpack it a little bit more through our next breakout session.
Hey, Shani, can you hear me?
So I'm going to stop share. And again, Jessica, I really want to get
me? I think my mic is.
Oh,
she said we can't hear.
Yeah.
Oh wait, how is everyone hearing her?
Yeah, I don't think you could. I think maybe that button might have got pushed again.
Can you hear? We can hear you now.
Oh, okay, good. I was all trying to message. I think just to add, and again, being mindful of time, is I really like the point about I think people also working with Indigenous scholars assume that they're experts within their own community. And, you know, that is not the case. Even though we have our own experiences and we have knowledge about different things happening within our community and cultural practices, does not mean that we're experts. And we actually are engaging in research and inquiry because we're trying to learn. And, you know, we're trying to ask those questions within our community and, you know, first checking in with them too. That was it. I was a little worried you guys wouldn't hear me. Okay. So do we want to do a quick breakout or what are we thinking?
Yeah, or maybe can I ask you, Jessica and Kim, this question, because it's as I'm even evolving my understandings of how to relate cultural competence and humility. Sometimes I'll see a presentation that shows like an iceberg. So like it shows the iceberg above water and then there's the iceberg below water. And so the top, the visible part above water, lists out all these pieces of like a tribal nation's culture that seem obvious and explicit. Like you can show up to a social event and see different dances and styles like at powwows. And then like below the water, if you will, there are these kind of deeper knowledges, understandings, and values that that only get shared in its appropriate context, I should say, and with the trust that evolves if you're coming in from outside the community. So I'm kind of curious what you think of that as a metaphor for cultural competence and how you might go deeper into water with humility.
So I think that's still a framework that is almost linear. Like, you know, from this end to this end is like all of us. And I think that it's not that way, that it's very, you know, circular, but not even just circular. It's like going like this because, and it's going all over because it's, you know, we're holding all of these different parts of us all the time. I don't take off my mom hat and put it right here and then I'm a scientist for right now. It's like my being a mother is influencing the way that I do science. I think that there's a lot of, I think when I think of culturally competent, like competency, I think of like we have to first acknowledge that we have differences in our cultures, that I can't assume that you know, I use this example because I think it's helpful, is that not all Indigenous people, let alone tribal nations, are the same, that we are very different and we have very different connections to land and the way that we engage. And there's so many different layers. There's gender roles, there's different, you know, positionalities in families. There's language and language dialects. There's different times of the season, and all these things we're having to carry with us as we navigate, you know, this world. And I talk about, you know, we're essentially, I think of myself as a lifelong learner, and that I won't know what it means to be a Shoshone Bannock Wayapa fully until I've lived my entire life. And I've known as a child, young lady, woman, you know, elderly woman and elder, but I don't know what that elder part is because I haven't gotten there yet. And then I also think the part about cultural competency is being, you know, competent, is you're taking the time to understand and learn the differences and the contributions that we can all make. But then also to not cause harm, I think, is where competency comes in. Because if we're perpetuating stereotypes or harmful narratives, you know, that is we don't want to do that. That's not, you know, our goal. And then the other part too is to be competent or conscious of the different historical impacts that, you know, research has played, or education, or whatever field that is that we're going into, that we're not ignoring it, that we're acknowledging that there is historical, you know, trauma, but also historical experiences that Indigenous people have to navigate. And so if I want to go into my community and I want to talk about education, I also have to acknowledge the history of boarding schools within my community. I have to acknowledge the history of boarding schools within my family and how that has impacted, you know, my own personal upbringing, and understanding that there is a tenderness that I have to be aware of and that I have to move forward. And maybe as a researcher, it's hard to engage in those spaces, but as a community member and as a mother and wife and relative here, those conversations are easier to engage in. And also understanding when is it, you know, something that is to be shared with the university institution. And then I think it was last week's reading when, you know, some things are not meant to be shared with the university or institution, and that's okay. And the people that we work with within universities need to be mindful of that. Like, it's not meant for everybody, and it's okay to not have things be meant for everybody.
Yeah. Jessica, thank you for that awesome thinking and clarifying with me, because I've seen first, I just want to comment on this iceberg thing, because I'm very like understanding about myself that I'm a visual person and I want to see these things represented visually. And I've seen the iceberg thing presented before, and it had a tinge of not sitting right. And I want to thank you for how you see it, because I'm seeing how that spiral makes a lot more sense, and even coming out like multiple spirals together. You talked about it so beautifully, and then coming into your discussion on like how you move in your identity, and then sitting with like and being centered in that knowledge that you'll know what it's like to be a Nua or Shoshone Bannock woman at the end of your life, knowing that, you know, knowledges and teachings and everything are coming, and being okay with that, because it, to me, and it's part of, I would say, a struggle of unpacking and unlearning Western ways of knowing, is thinking you'll reach a certain point and be able to do it at a certain age, and kind of rejecting that and saying, no, this is where I sit right now, and knowing that things are going to come when they're meant to.
And I think this is something you're reminding me of. You know, we have so much teachings in our language and our culture and our traditional stories, and some of those teachings we don't fully understand until we've gone through that experience. And you know, I think a lot of us have been dealing with loss, and there's this story that we have. If you don't mind, I'll share it. It's very quick, but it's a Shoshone story, and it's about Coyote and Wolf, who is the big brother of Coyote. And in the story, Coyote wants human beings to live forever, and he thinks it's so unfair, and he just, you know, is really arguing with his big brother Wolf that why can't humans live forever? And you know, Wolf, who is in our stories, is like the big brother. He's the one that gives wisdom, and you know, has to keep Coyote in check quite often. He was saying that that's not how it's supposed to be, that humans, you know, they have to pass away. And Coyote just thought it was so unfair. And so because of this unfairness, he cries, and he cries to the moon. And so when Coyote cries to the moon, he's crying because humans can't live forever. And I think I didn't fully understand that story until I had experienced loss. And then, you know, and before I was like Coyote, I was like, it's so unfair. Like, you know, how come we can't live forever? How come we can't have, you know, everyone in our lives important to us live forever? And then now I'm kind of transitioning more to, you know, Big Brother Wolf, where it's like, well, because it can't be that way. And that's the life of cycles, and that we need to be in the present moment, and just like all these different lessons that come from it. And it's just you know, taking the time to, we might hear stories or we might have experiences, but taking the time to get those lessons out as we move on throughout our life and learning experiences. And so I was really thinking about that story after listening to Kim today. Oh, we can't hear you.
Kim, would you like to share and reflect on anything, just kind of as we're talking through just everything that we've shared throughout the day?
Wait, would I be able to share later or just are we almost finished?
Yeah, if you want. Yes, we've got about 20 minutes left.
I just feel
Yeah, no worries. And I'm sorry for putting you on the
Oh,
spot.
okay.
So I want to quickly call out what Brianna put in the chat, and how proteins fold and then how they fold in on themselves and generate power and are a part of and also denature. So that's so beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I think would everyone be, Jessica, what do you think about people coming into these smaller conversation groups and just reflecting on things that that really struck them, or maybe things that they want to learn more about, and if there's anything that they're looking towards for next week, and then coming back and sharing that out with everyone.
Yep, I think this could be a good part of just our debrief and kind of like decompressing from today, because you know there's a lot that was covered. Yeah, maybe just have it be really straightforward, like what was something that stood out to them or impacted them today, and or something they're looking forward to learning more about. And then do we want to go ahead and put people in breakout rooms?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I just quickly typed that question in the chat for people to take with them before we jump into our breakout room. So let's plan for, what do you want to say? Maybe 10 minutes?
Yep,
8
I think
minutes?
10 minutes is great.
Okay. All right. So yes, cool. All right. Looks good.
All
Sorry, I
right.
didn't know. Or when you asked me, I felt like, I don't know why.
Hey, Shani.
Hey.
Hey, how did you think that went?
I have mixed feelings on how I tried to unpack cultural humility, but I think the way that you related it through story and then talked about competency from an education lens was really good.
Yeah, I feel like I got a better understanding of cultural humility, and in connected for me when I thought of the word humble, like in your community when people are, you know, say like be humble, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, yes. Oh my gosh, yep. And it's such a interesting, thing to walk in. And it's so funny. I kind of enjoy and think it's funny too when people tease you. It's like I kind of have this running joke with one of the elders. He's, you know, in some of our, I think I want to say I've heard Sammy say this way back, but like how a lot of our leaders and our spiritual leaders, like they're not leaders in the Western constructs that we have that are set up for us a lot of times. And that reminds me of this one guy who teases me. He's a janitor and security at our tribal admin building, and he's always encouraged me in getting an education, but then the way he teases me and tries to suss out, you know, like if I'm still Shanny, I guess, he'll call me senator. He's like, hey, are you gonna run for senator? And he's talking like nationally. So like we all know like that's just and then then I'll call him mayor, and we're not even like incorporated as a town. And I'm like, man, Mayor Black Wolf. I was like, how come you didn't call me? I would have helped you with your campaign. he just, I don't know. That's his way of teasing me and making sure I'm still kind of connected and yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's really interesting. I liked what you were saying too about people speaking up for you. Like, that is something that happens. And I didn't really put my finger on it until you said that. Like, we don't really talk about what we do. We just do it. Like Sam and I, like the work we do with all the different things we do, but we don't really say much. And then it's been really interesting watching Sam run for council, because he's still not saying much, but people are stepping forward and speaking on his behalf, and it's very interesting. Yeah, but lots and lots of teasing, and I just love it because it's like it goes back and forth, and I almost feel like it's like this release of like stress too. And yeah, I don't know, maybe that's something we should say too, is like if Native people are teasing you, it's actually a good thing.
Yes. And not to, try to take it in any kind of way. But yeah, you also connected things really well too through and I keep coming back to that as well. I was like, because I've seen it even in STEM circles where like this Native guy will use this iceberg metaphor, and I'm like, that's true to some extent, but it just didn't sit right with me. And then the way you described it, I was like, yes, it like makes sense now. And just how we need to, how we know and think it and live it.
And then I think so I've seen those examples in education through like a psychology lens too. So I think it's like I can't remember, it's the pyramid of like needs and things like that, or even just knowledge and identity and like ego and all these things like that. But I actually, through Indigenous research and like the different kinds of models that are built, I think that's where I really connect. So like Linda Smith's and decolonizing methodologies like model, and just other ones too. And I feel like it's supporting, but it's more than that. Like sometimes I have a hard time with words. And like I can explain with like stories and stuff, but it's like validating, like the way that I'm thinking is there's actual support out there that I can think this way and in an institution, and I have this backing to support, the way that I experience the world. And it's not just me. I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Just what you said, I would love if we maybe if you wanted to close that way, like and kind of emphasize, because our title too is like not just us. And then if we want to offer like a quick kind of, I don't want to say peek, I also don't want to speak out of turn with what might be presented next week. But when you're talking about Linda Smith, I was like, oh, maybe this will start to put it into some context where she has this 8 questions about research and how we come from, how we see it when we're practicing or going for research. Like it's purposeful and it's because of these things. Like these are the things that are asked.
And I have her book where I've actually read a good chunk of it. I've taken Vanessa's classes for a few years, and so I feel like we've read a chapter every, like, as we've moved on, and now we're we're almost done with the book, and it's just lots of really good examples. Sorry, my auntie's messaging me.
That's okay.
Hold
Let
on.
me show you really quick, and if you want, we can share. But I do like that too, and maybe we can just end on like kind of coming back to Linda Smith's book, and even if we don't put these questions up, I like in the new edition, Sweeney actually got to write a part in there. I don't know exactly where it sat. I think it was at the beginning, but it reminds me of what I do with like Sean Wilson's book, is like just spend time with it, like read it, and then like what you were talking about, and then like setting it aside or coming back to it again. It's like there's different things and teachings that come up based on exactly where you are right now, like physically, spiritually, mentally, all of that.
Did you want to post your slides in Google Classroom, or are you okay?
Yes, I can. I'll save them probably as a PDF,
Yeah.
and I just dropped, so it changed throughout the day, but the final version with those extra slides on cultural humility, they're all in there. So yeah.
And then I think we need to have people come back. I didn't set a timer this time.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just bringing them back.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we've got just a minute, I think.
Okay, so I just put my slides, and it is a PDF. And then yeah, I think we could just wrap up, right? We have like 6 minutes left. Oh my goodness.
Do you want to maybe ask if they want to share? They can put it
Yeah,
in
I
the
think
chat.
let's just let people share, and then if
Okay.
there's time we'll close, and if not, then I'd rather hear. I feel like they've been listening to us talk a lot.
Yeah, okay, 7 seconds.
Sorry, I didn't get finished.
All right, are we all back?
Yes. He
Okay.
might be coming in again.
All right, so as we start to come back to our group, if there's anyone from the group or individually who would like to share out, this is our time to debrief and kind of close our workshop for today.
So I must say it has been a very exciting morning. I was very excited to learn many new things, and I'm happy, and I want to congratulate you for organizing this workshop, and not just it, but the whole series.
Thank you.
Echo that. It's been awesome. This has been really fun, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks. We had a really good conversation in our group as well that kind of went all over the place, but I think that all of us agreed that we're just like learning how to ask questions, in like the right way, and to try to have that, to sit with the things that we learn and to understand, how to be, have cultural, humility in the proper way, which is like not easy to do, so we just had like a sprawling conversation, no like single thread, but it was just really good, and we all have really appreciated this.
So sometimes those are the best conversations.
Yeah, thank you all so much for organizing this. A member of our group was mentioning something that Jessica, you shared about how like not assuming that an Indigenous person is like the expert of even their own community. And I wanted to share how I think I can vibe with that sentiment as an autistic person. And like people ask me, yeah, well, like what can I do to like support autistic people? And it's like I'm not the expert on autism. But I just wanted to share that brief moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to share a book that I like have been like meditating over a lot. I shared it with our group. I think it should be shared to the entire group. It's Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown. I can type it in the chat right after, but
Yeah.
I just was really awestruck by the similarities with justice circles I've been in with these kind of circles. And I don't really experience these a lot within academia. So it's been really like gratifying and uplifting to see academics at the institution that I'm located at, who are committed to ideas of justice and committed to ideas of inclusivity. Especially being in like capital S sciences in the department, we don't really have a lot of these conversations. So it's like really nice to see these. But I just wanted to pass along her book. She's like a Black Afrofuturist who draws a lot on Octavia Butler's thinking and how we can imagine just futures. And it's really beautiful. So cannot push it enough.
Yes, please. Thank you. And thank you for your comment. And, just the different ways I've been able to, sit in and listen to how people are digesting the information we're sharing and also contributing really great points. So, thank you guys. Yay, and it's right there.
I just wanted to, I just wanted to thank y'all for listening to Dr. Strand and I earlier. I really appreciate it. And I love listening to all of you today and hearing about you, and hope to see you again next Friday.
Thank
Yes,
you,
thank
Kim.
you.
And thanks, everybody.
Yes, thank you both. All right. And with that, we have a couple more minutes if there's anyone else who would like to share. And if not, I would like to end today's workshop series again with a huge thank you for participation and being here and engaging in this discussions and conversations, and looking at how we can work together to support and uplift our Indigenous scholars, but also all our scholars, everybody. And we appreciate the work that has gone into and the support to making these workshop series possible. So thank you guys from Fort Hall, Idaho. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Bea, for helping us navigate Zoom. I don't pretend to even be an expert in technology, period. So your help is so appreciated. And thank you all for the wonderful, wonderful conversations, and really to like leaning into just going with threads of conversation and wherever they might take you. It's just really beautiful to hear that. And I do want to just give a quick, I think we'll be hearing more about Linda Smith, who has been mentioned a couple times today. She's a wonderful, wonderful Maori scholar and has written, and Jessica and Kim, would you say like that's a seminal work that she has in decolonizing methodologies?
Maury, I think.
Yeah, yep, and she's Maori, yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we'll hear a little bit more about her and her work next week, along with many other amazing Indigenous scholars.
Yes. So hopefully we'll see everybody next week. But until then, everybody have a good day and hope you enjoy some warm weather and sunshine, and remember to take care of yourself. Remember to take moments of pause when you need them, and also to remember it's okay not to know everything, and we're lifelong learners, and we're going through this journey together. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Bye.
Really good. Great. I have a question. How do we get the recording of last week? Because when I signed up, I knew I couldn't go on Friday last week, so I didn't check that box. But can I get the recording? I don't have Google Classroom.
So
I have a Gmail somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's probably deep in the. I'm going to graduate May 13th, so I don't know where my Google Classroom is. So.
Yeah, we'll have to check back in because I know we are putting it on Google Classroom. In the future, though, I think this whole workshop series will be transferred over. We're not sure where we're housing it just yet, if it's in the College of Graduate Studies or if it's going to be in a different department. But we'll have everyone receive the email of where they can go to get this information. But immediately it would be on Google Classroom, just because we have different people from different universities coming in.
Oh, I see. Okay,
yeah.
I can find that Gmail. It's somewhere. It's just that I don't know how many barnacles are on it. I'll have to find that. And I do have to say another thing. I really enjoyed the speakers so much today. I enjoyed this whole morning. But I have to say, the one speaker that had come from Heritage, the only thing I didn't get a chance to ask her is, was there a lot of difference in the transference from Heritage University to Moscow, because she got such a good foundation, obviously, and then now she's here in Moscow, and I wondered about that. Plus, my dad was one of the founders of Heritage, so I was like, I was sitting here going, "Oh my goodness, if he were alive today, he would be so thrilled to see her." It was just this made my week. It really did. So thank you.
Thank you.
So. Yeah, but I would like to know when you get to talk to her, there's so many good things at Heritage to bring to us here at the University of Idaho. That would be, I know, we need to know what, it's sometimes when they've had an exceptional experience in the undergrad, it's nice to know what pieces of that could be brought into the graduate program as well. So,
yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I really seriously, I called my sister at the break and told her, I said, there's someone here from Heritage. Really, thank you for the story. We had a real wonderful conversation about wolf and coyote, and I felt like, well, maybe Dad did live forever because this girl was here. So thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
It was really awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
One more thing, because since I'll be done on May 13th. I wasn't going to take a class because I thought, oh, people are going to think I'm a professional student to sign up for something when I'm all done with everything. And but this is the best thing. This is like the cherry on the sundae. It's just it's just wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
So cool, Diane. I just want to quickly also thank you for, I got to sit in on a breakout room where you shared about, really dove into responsibilities and appreciation to land, and then the complexities of that. Yes. So.
Yeah. Well, and I am a 4th generation Idahoan, so I just had an argument with my family about it this morning. so it was really good, because some of us don't want a lot of people on our land, and some of us do. So it's like, I'm the ones that want it just to stay pure. So anyway, so it's hard to know where the line is between embracing community, and keeping people from bringing their motorized vehicles into our property. You know what I'm saying? So, well, gee, yeah, it's really fun. I'll be here next week. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
I enjoyed it tremendously. And lifelong learners, you know, I'm 66. So, you know, there's still, my mom didn't retire till she was 84. So our lifelong learners go a little bit, I guess. So it doesn't make me an elder. Does that make me like mid almost elder?
We have a term out here where some community members call themselves a baby elder.
Oh, baby elder. Now I'm not quite there yet. I do have 14. I have 14 grandchildren, but I mean, you know, it's so funny because, you know, I finished the PhD now and I'm going, I've got to find a new dream. And so then and then this class came up and I thought, you know, with all Dad's work that he did throughout his lifetime, he passed in 2019, you know, maybe this is something I could take up and work on a little bit more. So, you know, it's funny when you finish one dream, you kind of go, oh, I've got to find another one. So, you know, you have to keep pushing, right? So, yeah.
Yes. Well, it's so awesome to hear. It's been helpful and inspiring.
Oh, it has been, because seriously, you know, you finish the PhD and you're kind of going, what do I do next? You know, and I'm not going to golf. So, I mean, it's like, so maybe I will, I might putt or something, but you guys brought up about being mothers, you know, so, you know, there's just so many passages of your life. And now I do have 14 grandchildren. So if all this that I'm learning today, I can impart to them, wouldn't that be remarkable? So thank you very much. You guys take care. See you next week.
Yeah.
Have a glorious week. Well, take care.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
I gotta mute me.
All right. I think that's everybody. Do you want to go ahead and stop recording, B?
Yes.